Hey, good morning, everyone. Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert here working alongside meteorologist Stephen Elmore this evening. As expected, as we've been tracking the last several days, another round of severe weather likely moving into 5-country. Now, early this morning as you're waking up, a strong line of severe storms spanning northeastern Oklahoma well back into northern Texas. It's getting a little bit closer. Now, the primary concern we've seen thus far, there's some tornado warnings. Got a couple right now just off to our west. There's also a line of some damaging wind with this storm system as well. You can see it is inching a little bit closer into the area. What's happening here is there's a lot of air being pushed out of this squall line. Now, what we can often see this time of year, especially with these setups where we have these squall lines, you can get little eddies that develop and spin up. And these spin up tornadoes, they're kind of tough to warn on. The difference with this setup is these warnings have really maintained themselves really the last several hours. They're inching a little bit closer now. Just a few moments ago, the Storm Prediction Center did go ahead and issue a tornado watch for a large majority of 5-country, including most of northwestern Arkansas, a good chunk of the River Valley as well. This is the overall radar picture. You can see a lot of lightning. Those storms are electric. So maybe you're already up. There's probably going to be a lot more folks over the next hour or two as these storms race into the area that are going to get waken up by Mother Nature's alarm clock. Stephen, working with me here, driving radar. Let's take a closer look into this northernmost tornado warning. If we can zoom in on that polygon, what we're going to see here is a big kink in that line. You see that eddy right there? Well, that's probably where we've got some Doppler radar indicated rotation. And it's those little eddies, those little kinks in the line that you can get those couplets to spin or areas of rotation to develop. And that's what we're going to be looking for pretty closely over the next few hours as this line begins to move into the area. Here's Tahlequah right here. Now, you got a few scattered showers out ahead of you, but just to the northwest of Tahlequah, you've got that spin developing. Now, this is going to be just east of Tulsa. So right now, no imminent threat in northwestern Arkansas, but should this storm maintain its current trajectory, wouldn't be surprised if we don't have that same area moving into parts of perhaps western Benton, maybe even northwestern Washington County. Stephen, if we could, I'd like to do a couple of things here. I'd like to, one, pause this. I'd also like to take a look at velocity. I want to see if we can pinpoint exactly where that rotation is, and you can see it right here. So what we're looking at right now is in the winds up in the atmosphere. So green, that indicates winds blowing towards the radar. We're utilizing the Doppler radar that's actually in Tulsa here this morning. It's closest to the system. Reds, of course, that's winds pushing away from the radar, and where you start to get those to meet, to spin up, that's of course where we've got that rotation. It's not the strongest couplet I've ever seen, but certainly for a squall line or a QLCS system like this, it's certainly evident there. These storms are generally moving off towards the northeast pretty quickly. I don't know, Stephen, if you're able to give me an idea of exactly how quick that storm is moving. Yep. It might be in that warning polygon there. Let's see, Stephen's going to get us some data coming out of that. That warning is actually going to be for about 20 more minutes, 1:30. So the current time here is 1:13. So
moving 40 miles per hour.
40 miles an hour. Okay, so the area of rotation is actually going to pass to the north of Tahlequah. Folks might be close enough to that warning polygon that their phones are alerting them. Maybe you've got some NOAA weather radios. Tornado sirens may be going off, and depending on your proximity to that, you might be waking up this morning wondering what's going on. Well, there is an area of rotation just off towards your north and west. At that current trajectory, we would expect that in the Gentry area around 2:18, Gravette around 2:30. Of course, those times of arrival, number one, is just an estimate. Two, subject to some change. Should that storm system speed up or slow down, of course, these numbers change. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going back to bed and then waking up around then. I'd probably stick with us here, and we're going to walk you through the storm over the next few hours. Stephen, if you could push radar just a little bit over towards the west, just to get me a bit on the more right-hand side of the screen. There you go. Oh, perfect. Looking live northwestern Arkansas right now, not a lot going on. Things are pretty quiet, so I drove in a little bit ago. It's windy outside. You've got some strong southerly winds that's pumping in some moisture. When you look at all the severe weather ingredients necessary to come together at the exact same time to get severe weather, moisture is one of them, and it is definitely up there. Dew points are pretty high this morning. You can feel it. It's soupy. It's just got that feel to the air, and certainly these storms are going to be tapping into not just the moisture that's around, but all that wind energy as well that's going to be pushing through the area. I'll tell you, yes, we're of course going to be most concerned with these spin-ups along the leading edge of this line, but what's going to happen likely more often than actual, the brand new tornado warning just coming out. And of course, we're starting to see those data streams come in. What's going to happen more often than the actual spin-up tornadoes themselves is probably a lot of wind. We're talking straight line winds, 60 to 70 miles per hour. And we do have thunderstorm warnings on account for that, spanning really into Missouri, well back into southern Oklahoma, northern Texas. And gosh, that's been the case since really Saturday afternoon. This line of storms developed on the dry line, individual discrete supercells, confirmed tornadoes, numerous of them out in central Oklahoma. This is the same system. It's been slowly working its way our direction. This new tornado warning now in effect until 2 o'clock this morning. Current time here is going to be 1:16, almost a couple seconds away. Stephen, let's take a closer look and find out who exactly is in this newest tornado warning. So if we could zoom in, get some towns popping up there, we'll be able to give you an idea of who now is included. If you live in either of these red polygons here, your phones are going off. No weather radio's waking you up. The 5 app waking you up as well. So Bull Hollow, Kansas, the community there, Pin Oak Acres, you're also included in this new tornado warning. I'll tell you, I don't see that hook, that notch as well defined as I once did. If we could take a look at winds, that's going to give us a pretty good update on the actual rotation within this storm. Obviously, rotation good enough, strong enough, and organized to a degree that the Weather Service went ahead and added that new tornado warning off towards the north and east. Now, certainly it is there. So you've got some inflow here. Those greens there, that's winds wrapping towards the radar. Here's Tulsa right here. That's where our radar site is. And those winds in the red there, that's winds pushing away from the radar. You get that to come together just right. You start to see that spin, and you can kind of see it maintain itself over the last several scans. So I'm not exactly seeing a weakening trend here just yet as we look ahead downstream further into perhaps northwestern Arkansas. Not under the warning yet, but you'll see if I step off the screen, that warning is going to come really close into parts of western Benton County. I would even say those winds are really breezy right there. Those last several scans, you're finding a lot more darker greens, some brighter reds, pinks there. That's certainly indicative of, if anything else, a lot of straight line wind. My guess, though, is there's certainly some rotation there. You can see it evident on radar. Certainly enough that we could see some tornado potential with that storm. That's why Weather Service opting to go ahead and issue that tornado warning, give folks a heads up. You know, these overnight systems are often really concerning to meteorologists like myself and Steve and emergency managers, and the reason why, folks are asleep. They're not tuned in. They're enjoying some Z's. And so we want to give folks an early heads up. That's why we're joining you here online right now. We are prepared to go on to Channel 5 at any moment once we start to see the threat get a little bit closer. But for the folks that are already awake, maybe you got a little bit of storm anxiety. It was tough to sleep last night. We're not wanting to sleep through the storms. We're happy to be here with you and walk you through it. We do have another tornado warning. This one's a bit further off towards the south. It's south of Interstate 40. If we could take a tighter look at this second storm here, Stephen, this more southernmost storm, that'll give us an idea of what's happening there. Doesn't look as defined as it once was, but I suspect once we take a look at the winds, what we might find is that there's probably a little bit of rotation with that system as well. Here's Eufaula, of course, and this is going to be now just to the east of Eufaula. If you're there in Eufaula, you got some really heavy rains, probably a lot of lightning and thunder there as well. Yeah, I see a little bit of rotation. It's not exactly the most organized, but pretty typical of what I would expect out of a squall line like that. Sims, Stigler, you're technically in that tornado warning. Gore, you're not yet, but should it maintain its current track, you probably do get added unless that rotation is to weaken. Of course, we hope that in fact does happen. Thus far, though, that warning's been in effect for quite a while. Sallisaw heads up, you're downstream from our Eufaula storm here. Should that continue, we might find that in your neck of the woods here. So maybe you know someone there in Sallisaw. Wouldn't hurt to give them a call, wake them up, just let them know, hey, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, and the reason why, you got minimally some strong winds. We're talking 60 to 70 mile per hour straight line winds. And hey, here's the thing. I know that doesn't sound as scary and as alarming as a tornado. Those 60, 70 mile per hour winds, they can do just as much damage as one of those lower and weak tornadoes. So just keep that in mind. Let's not let our guard down just because it's wind only. And perhaps, though, we still have that tornado risk as well. Okay, Stephen, let's do a area-wide reset. And if we want to zoom out, get an idea of exactly what's happening, some more folks probably joining us here online. If you are just joining us, I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Cover, working alongside Stephen Elmore, a team of folks behind the scenes here, staying overnight late to make sure you have the weather information to stay safe and prepared for the storms. We do have a squall line moving. It's a really strong line of thunderstorms. You see all those bright reds, those lightning strikes, indicative of a pretty healthy line of storms. And on the leading edge of it, we've got a couple of areas of rotation. We call this a QLCS, a quasi-linear convective system. Big fancy $2 word. It's a squall line, and as we often see here in Arkansas, Oklahoma as well, the majority of tornadoes, in fact, in Arkansas are actually spawned by lines like this. Now, this isn't the long track individual supercells, discrete supercells that we saw in western Oklahoma that are often the most photogenic and often more concerning, but nonetheless, they can produce tornadoes. We see it often here in the natural state. Let's take a closer look back into this northernmost storm here. That warning's getting a little bit closer into parts of 5COUNTRY, so I think I'm going to give it a little bit longer here on digital before we decide to pull the trigger and go ahead and go on air. You know what might be happening, there's a lot of activity out ahead of it. You start to see these scattered showers, even some heavier downpours. I'll tell you, that may be some good news for us. Right now, it's not going to eliminate the threat, but perhaps that activity out ahead of it, we're talking in Oaks and Tahlequah, Petite, you've got some really heavy downpours. That might be undercutting the inflow into that system. It might be blocking that moisture-rich warm air that's coming out of the southeast. That could help us. I hope it does. I really hope it does. Right now, though, a lot of folks probably waking up. Those phones are going off, right? It'll certainly wake you up from the middle of the night sleep. NOAA weather radios also alerting folks. Tornado sirens, and the 5 app is a great app to download as well. Here's our area of rotation. Green, that's winds blowing towards the radar. Of course, those reds blowing away. And look, here's the thing, Stephen, tell me your thoughts here. Not the most pronounced rotation, but enough. Certainly enough and pretty typical of a line like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the reason that they're extending this tornado warning is because we still are seeing those signs of rotation. Now, like Scott was saying, it's not the greatest sign of rotation that we've seen, especially across tornado warnings that we've already had across central and eastern Oklahoma so far. But we do still see the sign of rotation of it trying to spin maybe just a little bit. That's why they're going in and extending that warning. Again, getting a little bit close for comfort here in northwest Arkansas with that warning just being outside, crossing over the border into Benton County. So again, this line of thunderstorms has been destructive, Scott, throughout most of the evening. Now finally arriving close to eastern Oklahoma into northwest Arkansas in the River Valley. So this is not really showing signs of weakening that much. This has produced those tornadoes earlier on this evening across central Oklahoma. Norman area had some confirmed tornadoes. So this squall line is going to continue to move east, and we're going to continue to track it as it crosses over into 5COUNTRY. So a few concerns right now with that tight rotation. Again, this is just radar indicated rotation. When we explain the difference between what's a confirmed tornado and just that tornado warning with radar indicated, this is not confirmed just yet. We're just seeing the signs of rotations that could lead at any moment to seeing a touchdown with that tornado, but we're not there just yet. Just very strong thunderstorms pushing into eastern Oklahoma right now.
And often the case with these setups, they're going to be rain wrapped. So not only is it dark outside this evening, it's likely also to be rain wrapped. So you're probably not going to see it. You know, look, there's a lot of lightning, so perhaps it's possible we could get some ground truth, but I'm not counting on it. There's not a lot of folks up this evening, so we're probably going to see delayed reports, if any at all. Stephen, can you show us that watch? I want to give folks a heads up that who is in this brand new tornado watch. Stephen's going to get us reset here. Couple of warnings, a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings, but we also have just moments ago a tornado watch was actually issued for a lot of folks here in 5COUNTRY. It's all these counties here shaded in yellow, and that's going to run until 7 o'clock this morning. So we've got a ways to go before the threat passes. And as we look ahead, Not only do we see this threat that's going to be more pressing in the short term, probably the next few hours, we actually have the potential for some redevelopment this afternoon right here in our neck of the woods. So this very active weather pattern continues. It does look like, I think by late tomorrow evening, nope, it is now today, late Sunday evening, we could be in better shape. We've got to dodge this line of storms and the potential for some of that redevelopment later this afternoon. All right, so while we've got the radar turned off, I want to show you a couple of things here. There's a lot of colors, a bit psychedelic out there, right? This morning, you're rubbing your eyes, you're waking up and you're thinking, Scott, Stephen, what in the heck am I looking at? Here's the thing. You got some green here. That's going to be your flash flood watch. That's the secondary threat here that I think many of us are probably going to see. These are very efficient rainmakers. In fact, we are unseasonably moist. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. Yellow here, as Stephen suggested, that's going to be your tornado watch. Oranges, that's going to be your severe thunderstorm warnings. Damaging winds, that's a big deal with this system. Straight line winds 60 to 70 miles per hour, very common for these squall line setups. And you got these two storms here that are tornado warned. The northernmost, it's got more of a northeasterly track, and this one that's almost running parallel with Interstate 40. That's also a tornado warning. It's in those two locations that this morning we are finding Doppler radar indicated rotation. Looks like we're doing some warning maintenance. We've trimmed off a little bit of that backside of that warning. It's yet to be determined if they'll actually extend that out into parts of Sallisaw. Stephen, if we could, I want to go back to velocities. I want to take another look at where that rotation is, how strong it is, if anything at all. Hearing from the Weather Service, well-organized circulation with a history of damage and tornado reports earlier in the storm's life cycle approaching southwestern Delaware County. A bit of a messy view here. This looks to be coming out of the Tulsa radar. I'm curious if we might potentially have, there you go, a better look into it from the Fort Smith radar. Look, not all that impressive. It's messy in there. So here's going to be Eufaula. We're just to the east of it, south of I-40. I do think that storm will eventually cross I-40, running parallel with it. May bring that storm into Sallisaw, Brushy here later this morning. Let's track that out, Stephen. In fact, if we could do some times of arrival, I'm not too concerned right now with that area of rotation. It's enough that they're going to maintain that warning, but not too concerned with it right now. It looks to be a bit on the weaker side. That's some good news for us. Sims, how about 138, Sallisaw 214, Muldrow 229. Should that storm maintain its strength, speed, and direction? Right now, warning continues for that storm. Yet to be determined if they're going to go ahead and issue a downstream warning. Not seeing any indication of that just yet from the Weather Service. Let's go back up to the northernmost storm. That's the one that's had the most issues this morning. Oh, wow, okay. That's a much more concerning signal right here as that tornado warned storm continues to strengthen. So what Stephen's doing here, we're looping this radar, and what we find is that rotation's really coming back together right in this general area. You can see the spin right into that system. You find those yellows right there. That's some really strong winds, and it's wrapping up with some inflow here. That tornado warning now in effect until 2 a.m. This morning. What I'd like to do, Stephen, is to take a closer look, a closer examination of that storm. Let's get some towns, a few more additional communities to pop up. Make sure we're giving everyone a good heads up. That's a pretty strong signal of rotation here. That's going to be just south of 412 there, and it's going to be continuing to push near the Leech community. Bull Hollow, you're in this warning as well. Colcord and Kansas, you're also included in this tornado warning. If you know folks here, let's go ahead and call them. It's middle of the night. A lot of folks probably asleep. We need those NOAA weather radios going off. We need those phones alerting folks to that impending danger as well. That's a pretty strong signal of some rotation there. So in fact, a bit more indicative of something you would see in an isolated or discrete supercell, not necessarily something embedded in a line like this. And it looks like it just continues to wrap up in that area. So what I'd like to do, folks up in the booth, Trevor, if you could, let's go ahead and put us on air. Let's go ahead and get on to Channel 5. As this system is going to continue to get a little bit closer into western Benton County, I want to make sure we're giving folks enough heads up for that. So If you're joining us here online overnight, what you're going to see over the next few moments is us firing up our transmitter. We're going to be going on air, so bear with us over the next couple of moments as we make this transition. This storm continues to show some strong signs of rotation, getting ready to push into the Leech community. If you live anywhere along 412, let's say between Locust Grove and the Kansas area, that's a pretty strong signal of rotation. Certainly some healthy inflow into that system, into that storm, and that's going to continue to push into the area. Good morning to you, Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert, working alongside meteorologist Stephen Elmore this morning, interrupting some regular programming for a very strong line of severe thunderstorms moving through the area, now of which 2 tornado warnings. The first is going to be just off to our west. In fact, Stephen, if we could, since we're now on Channel 5, let's go ahead and do an area-wide reset just to give people the perspective they need. I know it's early in the morning, and I know you're probably really curious what's going on. Strong line of storms moving through northeastern Oklahoma, well back into southern Oklahoma, inching closer our direction. And to be quite honest, as I take a look at the last few loops here, not really seeing that weakening trend that we had hoped for. In fact, as we reset back just to the west of northwest Arkansas, we're talking northeast Oklahoma, this is a pretty concerning signal for some rotation there. Let's take a tighter look back into the storm where we just were. There's 2 tornado warnings here. This one's going to be most concerning. Brand new tornado warning just issued. And this red polygon here. And what you see is that hook, that eddy right there developing into that storm. What I think might help us, and it hasn't yet, there's some scattered activity out ahead of it that may help undercut some of that inflow. Right now, though, this is your area of rotation. It's pretty decent rotation. Now, we're looking at radar data out of Tulsa. That's closest to this system. As it gets a little bit closer, we may need to readjust and reanalyze that. But for right now, we're seeing this rotation continue to inch a little bit closer to Bull Hollow. Leech is going to be here. This is going to be 412, Kansas community right there just to the northwest of Chewy. Jay's not in the warning yet, but I'll tell you, if this doesn't weaken soon, it likely will be in the near future. An additional warning very well may clip northwestern Benton County. We're talking Decatur. You might eventually be included in that. Unless this thing turns right, which is a possibility, I don't think so with a line like this. Unless it turns right, I think we're going to avoid a majority of the area with that specific storm. Let's go back to reflectivity mode. I want to see the rain on this thing. Look, it's a really dark red right here, really heavy downpours, a decent amount of lightning and thunder. So Mother Nature going to wake a lot of folks up here real soon. You can see those other cells just getting ingested in it. That's some pretty strong, healthy inflow right into that storm. Bull Hollow, you're included in this tornado warning, Kansas community. This is going to be our strongest one, but it's not the only one. So I don't want to forget folks down towards the south and west. If we could take a look at that second warning there, Stephen gives us an idea of who's going to be in that one. This one to the north, that's going to be in effect until 2 a.m. That other one off towards the south, it may be close to expiration if we can take a look at that. Still active warning. This is going to be running almost parallel just to the south of Interstate 40. It's east of Eufaula, getting a little bit closer into the Sallisaw area. Here's Sallisaw, not included in the warning yet. So no immediate imminent danger in Sallisaw other than some damaging winds. There's going to be a lot of straight line winds coming out of that storm, pushing right out of it, 60 to 70 miles per hour. So that's some pretty strong winds. Not seeing that concerning hook right there just yet. Certainly some heavy winds. You see those brighter greens right there? That's some winds pushing out of the system. You're probably feeling those and you follow this morning. As in terms of rotation, not near as concerning as that other storm off towards the north. Okay, let's do another area-wide reset. I'd like to get an idea of just exactly where that line is in relation to the state line here. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning now just issued here. Details on that includes Adair, Cherokee, and Delaware counties, and that's going to be in effect until 2:15 this morning. So for just about the next 45 minutes, the reason we have that warning, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Not seeing a lot of hail out of this system. That's often the case. Not to say you might not see some smaller penny-sized hail, but stones that are staying below that severe weather threshold, which is an inch. Once you get hail an inch or greater, that's when those thunderstorm warnings are issued. When it comes to the winds, though, it's 60 miles an hour. And there's no question that for a large majority of us living along this line, in fact, you can see all those orange warning polygons issued. You're definitely getting 60-mile-per-hour winds at a minimum. In this case, for that's going to be Cherokee, Adair, and Delaware counties, you got probably about 70-mile-per-hour winds coming out of this storm, inching a little bit closer to the state line. Look, here's the thing. From Bentonville, Fayetteville, into Alma, Fort Smith, even into Waldron, there's not a lot going on. It's pretty quiet out there. It's windy, though, and those winds are going to continue to pick up as this storm system moves in a little bit closer. Stephen, if you could give us some insight as to what you're seeing over there. I'm going to work to pinpoint some information just right over here off screen.
Yeah, it looks like at least just out of the National Weather Service, maybe a brief touchdown earlier in Cherokee County. That's coming from our National Weather Service out of Tulsa. So that's that northernmost cell that we're tracking that rotation with. Now, again, we still haven't reached up into northwest Arkansas and the River Valley just yet. This is for eastern Oklahoma, but folks who are waking up early this morning and thinking, what is coming my way for 5COUNTRY? We're going to be talking about these strong winds. Again, that latest severe thunderstorm warning that was issued leading up just to the state line into northwest Arkansas. That was for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. That's definitely going to blow some trees around. That's going to blow the patio furniture around. That could cause even some damage. The good news is, like Scott just mentioned, not a whole lot of hail coming out of this right now. So those strong winds moving into eastern Oklahoma right now. We are seeing some rotation out of this system, but we haven't had that first severe thunderstorm warning or even that tornado warning issued into 5COUNTRY just yet. Now, again, we were added to that tornado watch. That's for all of northwest Arkansas and parts of the River Valley. The only people left out is in Johnson, Logan, and Scott. And the only reason for that, not necessarily because you're not going to get strong storms, but because we're also going to be talking about switching National Weather Services over to the Little Rock station. So again, those are their counties for Johnson, Logan, and Scott. We could see maybe a extension of that tornado watch right now, just northwest Arkansas and parts of the River Valley added that until 7 a.m. So some strong storms moving in overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. And again, we're not done with the morning hours. We're going to get a brief period, a brief break in the midday. And once we get to the afternoon and the evening hours, we could be talking about some storms firing back up today, Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. What Scott's doing right now is trying to find a debris ball. Maybe we had a brief touchdown like the National Weather Service is talking about there in Cherokee. He's also looking at reflectivity right now. We're getting an update from that tornado warning. So we're just keeping an eye on this right now because the next step after this, folks, in Benton County is moving into the Decatur area, the Gravette area, the Gentry area. So we're watching to see if they extend this tornado warning. Again, right now, just that radar indicated rotation. Nothing confirmed just yet. It's because we've got a lot of rainfall right now. Now, Scott talked about the rain ahead of that line, that squall line that we're talking about. That could help us out maybe. If that gets in front of it, we might not see as great as the inflow to continue that rotation going. But the next step is moving in here into northwest Arkansas. Scott's going to track that out here for you. Looks like extreme northwest Benton County, so Gravette there could be arriving around the 216 area. Again, that's just an estimate. We're sitting here at 137, so you've got some time if you're in the Gravette area, but overall, it's probably a best idea to prepare at least for some strong damaging winds. We're keeping an eye on this rotation if this were to continue at least for the next 30 minutes or so. Again, we've seen damaging storms throughout the night tonight across central and eastern Oklahoma. Now they're finally arriving into northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, which hasn't seen much activity today. And Scott, you can talk about that. We got a fresh environment that's ready to keep pumping these storms throughout the rest of the morning.
That's exactly right. It makes a really good point, Stephen. There is a lot of what we call storm fuel right above us. The energy in the atmosphere, it's ready. It's primed, locked and loaded. There's nothing to really stop these storms from tapping into that energy. And I think that's why we're likely seeing that line maintain its intensity as it pushes a little bit closer. You know, a couple of mornings ago, that would have been Friday morning, we had some early storms, a lot of rain, cooled us down. And that really prevented more of those storms from becoming more severe later in the evening. That didn't happen today. So even though it's the middle of the night, these storms are moving into an area that's still volatile, still a lot of energy available to tap into. But only is there some storm fuel, one of those key necessary ingredients. There's a lot of wind energy with this system as well. Very healthy couplet here. A couplet's the big fancy word for radar indicated rotation. I've kind of pinpointed it for you. You can see those winds just spinning, and it's maintaining itself. This specific cell has probably for the last hour or so, which is a bit uncommon maybe for some of these squall lines spin-ups. Generally, what happens more often than not, it's like playing whack-a-mole. They'll develop between radar scans. You might even get a brief touchdown, but by the time the latest data comes in, it's already long gone. That's not the case this morning. Tornado warning here for Bull Hollow, Cold Cord as well. The area of rotation near Leech. Yeah, go for it, Stephen.
Sorry to interrupt you. So that if you saw that blinking there for a second, that polygon. So now we're going into confirmed tornado. If you see there, so confirmed tornado, radar confirmed tornado. Again, rain wrapped. So we got to base it off radar here for Cherokee County. So Bull Hall area. That's a confirmed tornado now from the National Weather Service.
Confirmed tornado indeed. I was trying to pinpoint some areas in our debris detector. So what we're going to be looking at here is the radar is, I don't know if that actually co-locates exactly with where it should be, but what we're doing is we're asking the radar to say, hey, what's up in the air? Is everything common and uniform? Is it all the same shape and size? Is it all rain and hail? And what it's telling us is, no, not necessarily. And whenever that area of blue, near Blue Hollow, whenever that starts to match up with the actual rotation, it's a pretty good indicator of debris being lofted in the air. It's saying, hey, there are leaves, you know what, there's some garbage, there could be some shingles, there could be some tree limbs, things that aren't rain-shaped, that aren't the shape of hailstones. And that's what we're seeing here. That's why the Weather Service has gone ahead and updated this specific tornado warning to being radar confirmed. We've not had any actual eyes on the storm, but I'll tell you, that does not surprise me one bit, just given the fact that it's night, right? And there's going to be a lot of rain here. You almost have to be just right in front of it. Even then, you're still looking through some showers. But what I'll tell you now is, now that I look at that again, I do actually see where that's exactly co-located. So radar is indicating in this general area, I've circled it there, of something uncommon, something that shouldn't be up in the atmosphere, and that's probably where our debris was a few moments ago. If it's possibly still on the ground, I suspect we're going to have a new warning if they so choose to from the Weather Service. It's going to be a bit further downstream, and I do believe it's possible that that clips far northwestern Arkansas before eventually going off into Missouri. This is our most concerning storm as you wake up early this morning. Time now 1:41 Sunday morning. Meteorologist Stephen Elmore alongside myself working this morning to track this line of storms. I'd like to maybe take another reset. We are very concerned with this storm, Bull Hollow. A lot of rotation right there, probably a tornado either on the ground or perhaps it just lifted. But there is one other tornado warning just off towards the south, and I don't want to forget about these folks as well. You can see that red polygon alongside a lot of severe thunderstorm polygons stretching well back into southern Oklahoma. A lot of wind, straight line winds coming out of that system. Here's this warning specifically. Warner, Purim, you're under that tornado warning. Here's going to be Sallisaw. Right now, Sallisaw, if you're waking up this morning and you're wondering what's going on, right now, your most imminent danger is just going to be some straight line winds. We'll see if there's going to be any additional rotation. In fact, Stephen, if you want to take a look at that while we're here, I don't see anything just from rain mode, reflectivity. I definitely see some winds coming out of that system, not seeing it matching up with those bright reds, pinks. So perhaps we've got some good news for us at the moment. Wouldn't be surprised if that warning's allowed to expire. That's the Weather Service's decision, and certainly going to be curious to see what they do. Right now, set to expire 1:45. So we got about 2.5 more minutes to go.
They are going to let that expire.
Good, excellent. Yep. I suspected so. There's just not a lot of rotation with it. Still some straight line winds, no question about it. Stephen, if you will, slowly move me back north. Let's work our way up this line. What we're doing is we're looking for anything that stands out. Hey, here's these Boeing segments. Minimally, you've got a lot of damaging wind coming out of that. But then I also start to get concerned when we start to see them kink back. Nothing necessarily pronounced until you get into this storm. Right now, Leech community, strong rotation, Doppler radar indicated tornado. Luckily, we had a debris signature on radar just a few moments ago, which tells us that if there's not something on the ground right now, and there very well could be, there certainly was over the last few moments, This warning set to expire. Was it 2:30, Stephen, or was it 2 o'clock?
2 a.m.
2 a.m. Okay. I don't see any reason that they're going to let that expire. Maybe it's not as pronounced as it once was, and the reason I'm believing that, you're not seeing those greens being ingested necessarily as tightly as it was a few scans ago. As we loop this, though, still certainly a pronounced area of rotation. Looks like we've added a new severe thunderstorm warning. Perhaps that's what they're going to go with on the downstream side. It also could just be on account for those straight line winds coming out of the north side of that system. Definitely a healthy thunderstorm. This specific storm has been tornado warned for quite some time. It's maintained that rotation over probably the last hour at least. Numerous scans where it does pulse up and it does pulse down, and that's to be expected with a system like this. You don't ever let your guard down with these systems. It's very natural in a severe thunderstorm's life cycle to pulse up and then pulse down. You probably know that. Of course you do. It's just the way of life around here. Looks like that severe thunderstorm warning now does include Jay. They're stopping it at the state line. I don't see it in the parts of western Benton County. It is getting messy in there. I think, as we expected earlier, maybe some of those scattered showers out ahead of the line starting to get ingested into it, and that may be undercutting some of that rotation. That's good news for us. We like to see that, and that's probably exactly why some of that rotation maybe not as strong as it once was. Still some strong rotation nonetheless. That severe thunderstorm warning, the new one, that's going to be for Delaware and Ottawa County. That's going to run until 2:15. 60-mile-per-hour wind. That's enough to do some damage. Penny-size hail also coming out of this system. A lot of rain. Now, of course, we're going to be tracking number one this morning, that potential of tornadoes, damaging winds. Lower in risk of some hail, but I'll tell you, I'm also concerned with the potential flash flooding. We've seen a decent amount of rain over the last couple of days, especially in the River Valley. You saw that flooding out of Ozark, right? Well, look how just deeply defined these rain showers are. Not only do you have the leading edge producing some really heavy downpours, you got some rain in the rain shield on the backside of that system. And as evidence of what I'm talking about, you look behind the leading edge, you've got some flash flood warnings on the backside of that system. So this line certainly has a history of producing some flash flooding, in addition to the tornadoes, the damaging winds, and now at least a little bit of hail in that system as well. All quiet right now in northwest Arkansas, all quiet here in the River Valley. We're starting to see that activity really pick up here in our eastern Oklahoma counties. Severe thunderstorm warnings in orange, tornado warning in red. That tornado warning continues for some areas of rotation. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning. That includes McAllister there. That's going to continue to be the case. Like, I think we're going to probably maintain severe thunderstorm warnings at a minimum, probably for the next hour or two. This line, if it is going to weaken, it ain't doing so quickly. In fact, it's continuing to maintain its strength as it moves into 5-country. That brand new severe thunderstorm warning, that's going to be for 60-mile-per-hour winds, 3/4-inch hail, Haskell, Latimer, McIntosh, and Pittsburgh counties. As we loop this, you can find quite a bit of lightning and thunder. It's waking you up. You're tuning in either here online or on Channel 5 over the air, and you're certainly waking up to a very impactful system. Squall line of thunderstorms spanning really into parts of northeastern Oklahoma all the way back into northern Texas. Big gnarly line of storms tracking our direction. I think it's damaging winds. That's going to be our most concerning aspect, or let me say our most common aspect. But in these embedded lines, you can get these spin-ups. I think that's what happened. It really looks like we had Doppler radar indicated debris being lofted into that storm. It may have been short-lived here near the Leach community. Here's Bull Hollow. Here's going to be Colcord. Right now, it's a bit more messy. It's not as organized as it once was. Do we let our guard down? Nope, not yet. But it is improving. My concern is decreasing at least a little bit at this moment. It looks like the Weather Service canceling the warning for Cherokee County, at least trimming that part out. So that's some good news for us. Still, though, enough rotation that I think they're going to keep, or at least let this warning run its lifespan, which is set to be at 2 a.m. So got about 12 more minutes with that warning. I would suspect, unless it pulses back up soon, what they might do is go ahead and allow that to expire. Certainly a healthy mesocyclone within that system. Not finding as much of those brighter greens, being tightly wound up like it was earlier. Hey, Stephen, while we're here, let's back up 4 or 5 scans when it was really pronounced. This is probably going to be around the time where we had that Doppler radar indicated rotation. Here it comes. We'll back it up manually if we could. Let's pause it somewhere where it's moving through the Leech community. There we go. We're going to slowly bring this in. You see it winding up, tightening up, those brighter colors there. That's our stronger rotation. And it's probably right in now. We'll pause right there. It's probably right in this general area where we had that Doppler radar confirmed tornado. We confirm those with Doppler radar anytime we see debris lofted into the atmosphere. So radar is really cool these days. Not only is it going to tell us the winds, wind direction, wind speed, hail, rain, precipitation type, but it can also tell us, hey, there's something up here in our radar beam that shouldn't be. Often it's shingles, it's wood, it's grass, it's leaves, debris, right? It'll tell us when it's not supposed to be there. And we saw that signal right around here, which had been around 135. Now, right now, as we continue to come closer to real time, to current time, it weakens. You don't see it as tightly wound up as it once was, right? So that's some general good news for us. I don't let my guard down with these systems because, boy, it's very common for them to pulse up and pulse down. Not only is that the real-time environment, there's also quite a bit of storm fuel above us. There's a lot of ingredients in place that support the potential for some additional redevelopment, some strengthening of this system. So the imminent threat, I think, is decreasing for the Kansas coal cord community. I don't necessarily think that warning gets extended out. We'll see what the Weather Service does. They've got a few minutes to decide, and we'll be sure to let you know. This is our tornado warning at the moment. But we do have numerous severe thunderstorm warnings that are going to be in effect all up and down that line. You can see those. Really, they're actually in parts of Kansas, way up north, and they extend well into parts of northern Texas. And that's slowly going to be moving our direction. Here's the thing. I think the northwestern Arkansas part of the area, northeastern Oklahoma, you're going to be dealing with these storms before the river valley. Here's why. You notice how it really starts to slant? That line slants from the southwest to the northeast. We'll see the impact here in western Benton County first, eventually in the parts of Washington County, Crawford, Franklin to follow. And of course, our Oklahoma counties will certainly see it first, as you would expect. Stephen, a lot of rain. And that's going to give us some flash flooding concerns as well. If you could, let's talk about the watches in place right now.
Yeah, not only do we have that tornado watch that's going out until 7 a.m., but well ahead of today, even when I got in earlier on this afternoon, we already had that flood watch. So flood watch across all of northwest Arkansas and the river valley, not only for the rain that we've had tonight. Folks that have been with us the past couple of days, you've been noticing every day has pretty much had rainfall or even some of those strong storms. We've picked up a lot of water over the past several days, and tonight's event, this morning's event, is just going to continue to add on that, so that we're already soaked, and now we're just going to add on top of that. So not only the flood watch, but of course, more importantly right now, is that tornado watch that goes out until 7 a.m. for northwest Arkansas and parts of the river valley. We haven't heard from Little Rock just yet. The National Weather Service out of Little Rock about adding Logan, Johnson, and Scott into the tornado watch right now, just all of northwest Arkansas and what counties Tulsa does have. That includes Sebastian, Crawford, Franklin, into LaFleur and Sequoia counties for us. So again, tornado watch going out until 7 a.m. And we're watching right now what Scott's doing is showing where can we see that next notch of a next area of concern for maybe some more rotation popping back up. Again, we were talking about earlier scans around the Leech area.
Hey, Stephen.
Yeah.
Stephen, brand new tornado warning, which does now include Benton County. So we have a brand new tornado warning that's going to be for Delaware County and Benton County. That's going to run until 2:30 this morning. If we could, I'd like to take Stephen, I'm going to give you control back over this system. I'll clear this scope out real quick and then give it all back over to you. There it is. We've been kind of talking about it. It looks like they went ahead and reissued that tornado warning. This area of rotation has been stronger. In fact, folks are probably really getting those warnings fired up on their phones right now. You're waking up this morning. You've got a line of storms capable of producing tornadoes, likely has a recent history. We're talking debris in the atmosphere probably about 20 to 30 minutes ago, now getting ready to move just to the west of Gravette, although I'll tell you, Gravette, you're included in this brand new tornado warning, Sulphur Springs as well. Area of rotation is going to be real messy. It's going to be right back in here. We did have a good area of rotation, a good notch in that line just off to the west. That's not as impressive as it once was. It's a bit more messy out there. Rotation enough, though, to warrant that brand new tornado warning. Stephen, if you could give me winds, I want to see if anything changed over the last scan. Here it is. It's pretty easy to identify, but I'll tell you, it's not necessarily as pronounced as it once was. Minimally, there's a lot of wind coming out of that system. Boy, look at those yellows and those hot pinks right there. That tells us you got a lot of winds racing away from the radar. So if we were to have more greens being ingested into that storm, it would be a little bit stronger. It's certainly possible that changes. Rotation enough just to the west of Colcord here, moving towards the northeast at about 45 miles an hour. At least it was, yep, 45 miles an hour. So that's going to be bringing it into northeastern Oklahoma, northwestern Benton County. Siloam Springs, you're not in the warning. This threat, at least the rotation, just the rotation, not the damaging winds, but the rotation in of itself likely passes off to your north. Decatur, not technically in the warning, but I'll tell you, pretty close to comfort there. Grab it, though. You are certainly going to be included in that brand new tornado warning. Stephen, if you could, you read my mind. Exactly. Let's put some towns on here. If we could. So the Pat community 216. Right now, current time is 1:54 for us. I was curious if there might be a few more. There you go. That's going to be perfect for us. Riverside Inn at 226. Gravette 217. Those times of arrival estimated, and that assumes this storm doesn't change its speed or direction. Hasn't the last hour or so. So I think we're probably pretty safe with those ETAs. Now's the time to be waking up, taking those tornado safety precautions. If you're just joining us on Channel 5 or on 5 Plus on our digital platforms, very active severe weather event moving into the area. I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert alongside meteorologist Stephen Elmore. Most concerning storm for us this morning is this guy right here. Area of rotation along the leading edge of that squall line. Right here we see those yellows and those reds. That's going to be where the rotation is. Right now, Doppler indicated rotation, but just a few moments ago, it likely did produce a tornado. In fact, now getting some reports from emergency management that they do have some trees down in the road, and that's going to be along 412. Alternate and 540. That's going to be Delaware County, so a bit off to our west. Certainly saw some very concerning debris being lost in the atmosphere on Doppler radar. Right now, if we could, Stephen, maybe let's take a look at debris tracker. Make sure we don't have any more debris with that system on the ground. Certainly enough rotation. I'm not seeing anything. What I'm looking for an area of blue in the middle of all the red. And certainly a little bit of a signal here, but I don't think that's going to co-locate exactly with where the rotation is. So I don't think that's good data for us. Right now, not finding any debris, but keep in mind, we are often looking at radar data a couple of minutes in the past. So here's your area of rotation. You can see this purple here. That's going to be just to the east of 59. So 59, that's going to be north of 412. Here's Colcord just to the northwest, probably by, I think, Stephen, you can do me a ruler there. Give me some miles. How far west of Colcord is that area of rotation? I think I can probably pull it up real quick. Let's see here. There, so really not much, 3 to 4 miles, and that's going to be about it. Really close right there, area of rotation coming into the Colcord area. That's going to track right into northwestern Benton County. It's moving at about 45 miles per hour, so we're not looking at a lot of time necessarily. In fact, you guys got a brand new update there as Stephen's tracking that, and you can see where it was really strong right back here near the Leach community. I really believe there probably was a tornado. Weather Service will have to confirm that for sure. Certainly radar indicates that there was. Not as pronounced as it was even 15, 20 minutes ago, not as strong as rotation as it was. Here's the concern. Not only do you have some rotation out there with this storm right now, you've also got an environment above us that's really conducive for the development of these tornadoes. And often along these lines, like we've got, it can happen pretty quickly. You can often use the term quick spin-up tornadoes. Here's your rotation. You start to see this little S-wave pattern here. You often want to look into these little eddies right here for that potential of some circulation. Have you ever ran your hand through the water and you get those eddies to spin up? That's a lot like what's happening right here. Not as strong as it was. not going to let our guard down. There's certainly enough broad rotation right here with this couplet that folks in northwestern Benton County certainly have a reason to be taking those tornado safety precautions. Let's get the shoes on, move to that centermost room, put as many walls between you and the exterior as possible. The things that you know to do that we have to do every so often here around the area. Gravity, you're included in the tornado warning here. 2:16 is when our radar estimates that storm will be rolling through your neck of the woods. Right now, current time 1:58, so you got a little bit of time. I wouldn't necessarily delay too long. What I often recommend doing, already download that Channel 5 app. Just search KFSM in the App Store, the Google Play Store, and we're going to be streaming live there for you throughout the duration of this event. We're not going to go to bed till the threat passes and that you are safe to go back to bed yourself. If you also want to just turn up Channel 5, maybe you're in this polygon, a little bit nervous, don't want to necessarily leave the TV, just turn the volume up. We're going to walk you through it. We'll be here all night long. I'm not going to go anywhere. Here's your rotation. Coal cord just to the north of town. It's probably going to be really tough to see unless you're just right out in front of it and you just get really lucky and see one of those lightning strikes on the backside illuminate the sky. Even then, it's just going to be for a brief second, probably embedded with a little bit of rain. So the recommendation, don't go outside trying to look at this storm. It's going to be really tough to see any lowerings or anything like that. We do have tornado watches in effect for parts of northwestern Arkansas, most of the River Valley. Logan, Scott, Johnson not included at this time. It's possible, though, that they're going to have to add those counties. This line's just not weakening as it moves into the area. Certainly not, at least thus far. That tornado warning stops at the Missouri-Oklahoma state line. Yet to be determined if they'll continue that for parts of McDonald County. Other tornado warning that was in effect just to the west of Sallisaw along and south of I-40, that's been allowed to expire, although you've got severe damaging winds coming out of the entire leading edge of this line. So yeah, this is going to be our tornado warning. But you've got 60 to at times 70 mile per hour straight line winds coming out of that storm. And I'll tell you, that is often just as damaging as one of those lower ends EF0s, EF1 tornadoes. So just keep that in mind. Siloam Springs, can you move that down for me a little bit, Stephen? It's kind of cutting off the top of my screen here. There you go. 210. X and A, expect that leading edge of that storm right at 231. Bentonville, downtown area, 238. Fayetteville, 252. Fort Smith, 313. Greenwood a little bit later. The reason why the River Valley's seeing these storms push in a little bit later, that line of storms is oriented in kind of a diagonal direction. So it's extending and slanting a little bit further off towards the south and west. So it's going to roll in to the River Valley, parts of the southern area a little bit later. We'll see the brunt of those storms here probably over the next half hour to an hour in northwestern Arkansas. You're going to hear the lightning. You're going to hear the thunder. These storms are electric. In fact, you see all this activity right here embedded in the red? That's all lightning strikes. There's a lot of lightning with this storm. That tells us a couple of things. Number one, you don't want to be outside, right? Lightning safety 101. Number two, it also gives us a pretty good indication that these storms, they're rather healthy out there. And that's going to continue to be the case. That's why that tornado watch brand new was just issued a little bit ago. Still continuing to see that report near Leech in Delaware County. It's going to be in Oklahoma of some debris. We got some damage reports starting to come in. We kind of talked about that earlier. We expected we would see Doppler radar indicated rotation followed by a debris signature. Followed by a few reports of damage 20 minutes or so later. That's what's happening this morning. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for a good majority of Benton and the northern half of Washington County. Who's included in this? Bella Vista, Decatur, Siloam, Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville, West Fork, Lincoln, Farmington, 3 a.m. That severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for 70 mile per hour winds. That's straight line winds coming out of this storm. You could also get up to 3/4 inch hail falling from some of these stronger updrafts. Now, right now, tornado threat for Washington County isn't all that imminent. That could change at any moment. Conditions certainly are favorable. We keep a close look on the leading edge of that storm system, that line, to see if any of those little eddies develop, those little kinks in the line. That's where you can get that rotation to develop. Stephen's showing us winds. Here's where the rotation is in the tornado warned storm. It's there. Not as bad as it was when it was in the Leech area, but certainly seeing a well-defined area of rotation. Not necessarily the strongest values, but certainly a concerning signal enough that I'm in Gravette. I'm taking my tornado safety precautions. If I'm to the northwest of Gravette, northwestern Benton County, I'm definitely taking those tornado safety precautions. Delaware County continues to be included in that tornado warning as well. I don't think this specific area of rotation is going to be a problem for Gentry. I don't think it's going to be a problem for those of us here in Siloam Springs. It is going to be a problem for Gravette and towards the northwest. We'll need to watch that closely. If it's not the area of rotation that's concerning, the secondary threat's going to be the winds pushing out of the leading edge of that storm. Colcord, Flint, Chewy, Watts, that's going to be the immediate concern as that storm system pushes off towards the east. Those winds likely picking up in northwestern Arkansas. Weather Service continuing the warning. What they're doing here, you can see it flashing on your screen. That's the new polygon, the new warning box. This old one's going to drop off. That tells us, there it goes, drops off right there. It tells us the threat's passed for that area. It continues. And maybe even we're starting to see that couplet come back together. That latest scan starting to show those greens matching up with those yellows and reds, those pinks and purples there. What that is our radar is measuring the wind speed and the wind direction, and it's telling us the green, that's wind blowing towards the radar, reds and yellows blowing away from the radar. So you get that opposing motion in the wind right next to each other, really tightly wound up like that. It's called a couplet. That's off the radar indicated rotation. I see that. Looks like McDonald County was included in a brand new tornado warning. So you can see that flashing there on your screen. I believe that's the right call. That's certainly a good call, just given how that rotation's starting to come back together. We talked about this a few minutes ago. It often is the case. These storms will pulse up and they'll pulse down. Looks like we might be pulsing back up, starting to see some signs of that as we go into the state line. That area of rotation right now on the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line, if not just west of it, it will be on that state line here really soon. These storms are moving relatively quickly, 45 miles per hour towards the north and the east, and I do suspect that will eventually move just to the west of Gravette, a little bit close for comfort before eventually crossing back into Missouri. Stephen, are you seeing anything on your side?
Yeah, I just want to give a quick update. Again, earlier we were talking about how this was a radar confirmed tornado. Right now we've dropped below that limit again based off of the verbiage that's coming out of this next tornado warning that they just updated. Again, we're dropping back down to just that squall line capable of producing a tornado. So this is just radar indicated rotation as they're extending this into southern Missouri. So right now, not looking at anything confirmed just yet. Maybe had something near the Leech area, but overall, we're just watching this rotation that, again, as we see it tightening back up, we could definitely start to see signs of maybe it cycling back down. That's what we talk about with these storms, Scott, is they cycle up and then they cycle right back down. Right now, we're in that downslope, but that doesn't mean that we can't see it uptick once again as it crosses, again, just over the state line into Arkansas. So, again, folks in Gravette, this is no joke right now. Again, you want to be taking precautions right now, even though we're just talking about that rotating, indicated rotation right now, nothing confirmed. But again, you saw how fast it was confirmed earlier. We could be right back in that situation here coming up here pretty soon. Scott's trying to pull up maybe some debris. That's what we're using our models for right now. You see that blue? You can really start to see where that rotation is exactly right on that county line right there going into Benton County. Extreme northwest Benton County. This is definitely west and towards the northwest of the Gravette area. Even though you're still involved in that tornado warning, it looks like the tightest rotation is definitely off towards the west and looks to be tracking more towards the northwest.
Sulphur Springs included in this tornado warning, as well as Gravette and Sycamore. I think the area of rotation barely just to the east of Sycamore, west of Gravette. Hunting Creek Road, Beatty Road, just a couple of landmarks for you there. Likely includes the area of Southwest City and Pack as well. You're going to be included in this tornado warning. We've zoomed in really tightly. Here's going to be your area of rotation. It's not exactly the most balanced as it once was, but certainly tight enough and starting to uptick. We start to see these storms cycle, and that's what's happening. Starting to get a bit more concerned with this area of rotation as it is right now, pretty much hugging that Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. A little bit of lightning, a little bit of thunder out there as well. If you're just now joining us, nonetheless, we have an active pattern, an active weather system moving into the area, a line of thunderstorms spanning really into Kansas, back into parts of Texas. Along the leading edge of that line, we're starting to see, and we have for the last couple of hours really, areas of rotation. This specific cell, this very one that's moving into extreme northwestern Benton County, actually does have a history of producing tornadoes. We're starting to see some reports. If you see me looking off the screen here, I'm starting to see some reports streaming in from local officials out of the Leech community. Looks like quite a bit of tree damage is what they're reporting to us. Perhaps some power lines down as well. Thunderstorm wind damage in Morris and Okmulgee County, so that's a little bit out of our area, but nonetheless a testament to just how strong these storms are. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I do want to give you some perspective, some context as to exactly where this storm is, where it's going. This is going to be your Doppler radar indicated rotation. Right now, I'm not finding a lot of debris. I keep looking closely just given how this storm has a history of producing some damage. Perhaps we saw a little bit there. What we're looking at here, I know it's messy and I know it's 2 a.m. and you're waking up and you're wondering what in the world's going on. What are all those psychedelic colors? Well, what we're looking at is in the air, there is an ability with the radar to see what's happening in the radar beam. Is it all rain? Is it all hailstones? Or is there something that's a different shape and a different size up in the atmosphere? And radar can tell us if that's the case. Often it is a sign of some debris. Right now, here's your Hook Echo. You can see just south of Southwest City. So we're talking, here's Arkansas, here's Missouri, here's going to be Oklahoma. This is your state line right here, and that is exactly where that rotation is being found at this moment. Gravit, you are technically included in this warning. I think the area of rotation may pass just off to your west. With that said, you're more than likely getting quite a bit of damaging winds coming out of the leading edge of that storm before it eventually moves into Missouri. Latest scan just coming in right here. That's going to be your inflow notch. That's where we're starting to find that area of rotation. It's not as tightly wound up as it once was, but those winds are certainly starting to come up as that system moves into now northwestern Arkansas. Tornado warning continues. Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that is going to be in effect until 2:30 this morning for the red polygon right here. That's your tornado warning. 2:30 this morning. That's exactly right for at least parts of northwestern Benton County, which is where the threat is at the moment. It'll eventually move back into Missouri. If you could give me that same information with that storm, it may be 2:30 as well. It's technically a different polygon, and the reason why, it's a different weather service office. This warning is coming out of Springfield, although it is also for 2:30 this morning, as Stephen has highlighted that. Here's your area of rotation. Not as pronounced as it once was. Still concerning signal, minimally for damaging winds, up to about 70 miles per hour, if not stronger. But I do think there's enough rotation there that we're going to have to continue to be concerned with some rotation. Stephen, back to you.
Yeah, right now we're watching that rotation again. Not as great as it was earlier. Definitely in the Leech era, we had some concerns. Already some reports coming down about some tree damage, maybe even some power lines down. So we definitely had something about 30 minutes ago or so. But that rotation, not as great right now. We're still following it. It's moving into extreme northwest Benton County right now. So folks inside that red polygon definitely want to be taking shelter right now. The rotation is just that radar indicated rotation versus that confirmed rotation that we talked about with that tornado earlier. I want to also talk about, step away for this for a moment. We do have that severe thunderstorm warning across Benton and Washington County right now. If we just zoom out here just a little bit, again, strong winds are moving into northwest Arkansas right now. You can see that right along this leading edge that's moving into Decatur right now, into Siloam Springs as well. These are some strong winds, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up this polygon real quick and get the information. I believe, yeah, this was for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It only takes up to 60-mile-an-hour winds to get that severe thunderstorm warning. So this is still damaging winds, even though we're not seeing any rotation across that severe thunderstorm warning outside of extreme northwest Benton County. Some strong winds are about to move through Decatur, Siloam Springs into western Washington County. So I'm going to go ahead and take this down real quick, and let's get a little bit of a closer look. Scott, you got the control there. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at this straight line wind threat that we have. Now, again, maybe some notches here and there that could produce into something, but once we start to see those brighter colors, especially where that rotation is right there, these are some strong winds. So Decatur, Gentry, into Siloam Springs right now, probably very loud outside, those strong damaging winds moving through. If we move a little bit further south, again, western Washington County starting to see some of those stronger winds as well. And for folks who are waking up, either watching us on 5 Plus, or our live streaming platforms, or even on 5 News, we're talking about northwest Arkansas right now because this line, the squall line, is slanted at an angle. So we still got some time for folks waking up across the river valley. You know, when are the storms going to come in for us? Let's take a wider look here across the river valley, and I'll switch it back here to reflectivity so you can see where that rainfall is. Again, we're still across eastern Oklahoma, now just moving into Sequoyah County where we have a new severe thunderstorm warning. So folks in Sequoyah County, we're going to be seeing some of those strong damaging winds come in here as well. And I'll pull up the information for that one. I think that's going to be for, yes, 60-mile-an-hour winds. So some still strong winds, capable enough to produce that severe thunderstorm warning. Not as strong as it is moving into Washington and Benton County right now, but we still got some time. Folks who are waking up in the river valley, again, you can see where that line is, still in extreme eastern Oklahoma. Folks in Sequoyah County, that's where we're going to be. Our next concern is with these strong winds. But right now, the main concern with this slanted squall line is going to be into northwest Arkansas. So folks who live Bentonville, Rogers, Fayetteville, you've got some time before those strong winds get to you. Definitely that rain and those lightning strikes. And where they're updating, I want to get a quick look. We're going to keep on, our main concern is going to be, is this tornado warning. So when we see that blinking polygon there, they're updating that. I want to pull up the latest information on that. They've really cut that down to extreme northwest Arkansas. Now, this is again a squall line that's capable of producing a tornado at any time. Nothing confirmed right now based off of what we're seeing on radar and what the National Weather Service is seeing on radar. Right now, this is just some tight rotation that's definitely not as tight as it was, but it's still there enough to be able to produce that tornado warning. So folks still grab it involved in that tornado warning up into Sulphur Springs. The rotation is a bit towards your northwest. So again, even still in eastern Oklahoma, you can see where that notch is right there as Scott's moving that around. This is going to be moving into southern Missouri here very quickly. They're going to continue to cut down this polygon for northwest Arkansas as this pushes up towards the northeast. And there's that latest scan right there where we're really talking about that rotation, not as great, and also moving into southern Missouri, Scott.
Yeah, Stephen, I'm wondering if you can help me with pulling up maybe one of those tower cameras, those iCams. I think there's one near the home office in Bentonville. I don't think it's going to give us a look at anything within that area of rotation, but perhaps we can get an idea of what the lightning and the rain and the wind is doing out there. While you're working on that, we'll take it from here. We're going to look at that area of rotation right here, just to the east of Southwest City. It's pretty much moved almost into completely Missouri. Not ready to give Benton County your all clear just yet. But I do think we're probably only minutes away from that. The threat, it's likely going to be right here in this general area that rotation is. Now, what Stephen's working on, we've got a series of cameras positioned all around the area that gives us a really good idea, some ground truth, if you will, of exactly what's happening out there. And that is going to be able to tell us just the health of these thunderstorms. Right now, we may continue to see this severe weather threat continue. In fact, I believe it's probably going to continue for the next several hours. This line of storms, it's gnarly. It spans pretty much now into Missouri, well back into parts of Texas, and you can see all that red there. Well, that tells us those storms are pretty healthy, and the main concern with these storms is actually going to be damaging wind. You see all these orange polygons. Well, that's where we expect those winds to pick up to about 70 miles per hour. That's why we have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning for Benton and a good chunk of Washington County, Fayetteville, Rogers, Bentonville, included in that severe thunderstorm warning. The reason it was issued, 70-mile-an-hour winds, could even see a little bit of hail out there, maybe perhaps penny-sized hail falling out of this storm. So yeah, I know you hear damaging winds, you hear straight line winds. Maybe it doesn't sound as concerning as a tornado, but often they can produce just as much damage as some of those weaker tornadoes. Starting to see a bit of a gust front coming out of those storms as this line approaches Fort Smith radar. We've been using Tulsa a little bit depending on where those storms are specifically. Right now, Fort Smith radar shows the leading edge of those storms now into parts of western Benton County. We'll take a closer look Stephen, looks like you've got that mouse. I'm sorry. Still looking at that system there, producing a lot of lightning. Here's Tahlequah. Here's going to be McAllister. And look at all those little dots between the two towns. That is some frequent lightning and thunder. So if you're not woken up yet, you're certainly going to be by Mother Nature here real soon. Looks like we're going to be continuing with that tornado watch, just glancing over some updates, making sure we're not missing anything for you this evening. Tornado warning continues for northwestern and northern Benton County. I'll tell you, I think the main area of rotation is probably now into parts of McDonald County. I think it's going to be in southern Missouri. That's not to say it may not redevelop elsewhere. It's pretty common, just like what we see with that tornado warned storm right now in parts of Benton and McDonald counties. It's not uncommon to see those eddies develop along the leading edge of these squall lines, potentially producing enough rotation that triggers a tornado warning. Yeah, they're generally lower end tornadoes than perhaps those isolated, discrete supercells. With that said, this specific storm has produced damage in the last hour. The Leech community in Oklahoma, local officials there responding to reports of damage, and we saw that debris lofted in the air on our radar. So that gives me a pretty good idea that these storms mean business. They can and will produce tornadoes if the right ingredients come into play. So yeah, we're looking at this line in of itself right now in real time, but we're also paying close attention just to the environment. What are the ingredients available to continue to support this line of storms? As you know, we had a mostly dry day for our Saturday. It was hot. It was humid. Dew points got up there. It felt muggy. That's a really ripe environment for these storms. And I think that's really in large part why we're not seeing them weaken as they push into Arkansas. So that's going to be our most pressing threat. If you're wondering about the forecast, what about what happens later in your Sunday? Well, this line is slowing down a bit. I do think there's going to be some rain linger at least into Sunday morning. So if you got church plans, you know what, you're probably going to want the rain gear just to be on the safe side. There's a potential that we clear out and the energy, the atmosphere recharges and refuels, and we could be dealing with more thunderstorms later this afternoon. In the meantime, we have a line of thunderstorms, damaging straight line winds coming out of these thunderstorms. 70-mile-per-hour winds. That's some pretty strong winds. Certainly enough to blow some lawn furniture around. Certainly enough to break some smaller tree limbs. Maybe you've got a dead tree in your backyard. You've been nervous about it. Yeah, well, we could be dealing with some issues with this system. The actual tornado warning in effect for northwestern Benton County, that's the same cell that did produce some damage in Oklahoma. So at one point it was pretty strong. I'm not seeing as much signal right now that it's necessarily tightly wound up. That rotation's not as pronounced as it once was. As we take a closer look though, you can still see right just to the north of Gravette, there's quite a bit of wind coming out of that system. You see those brighter pinks and those yellows here, those darker pixels. That's where radar's saying, hey, there's quite a bit of wind coming out of that system. You're getting ready to see it come right over that Missouri-Arkansas state line. The Knoll community, you're probably going to see that. It'll cross I-49. Not necessarily a good time to be traveling 49 this morning. Perhaps you had early morning travel plans headed maybe towards Joplin, Springfield area. You're going to want to give it a few extra minutes. You're seeing a brand new severe thunderstorm warning now issued for that. Perhaps that's a sign that the Weather Service may end up allowing that tornado warning to expire. Right now, rotation's not near as bad as it was. There's certainly some weak rotation just to the north of Gravette, just to the west of I-49, probably by about 3-4 miles. Certainly the wind, though. The wind, that's going to be our biggest concern. I really think with the rest of the morning, I think we're going to be paying close attention to make sure there are not some additional developments along that line, some spin-ups. You can start to see some of that maybe happening here near Gentry. Let's, in fact, take a closer look at first what that looks like just on rain mode. Certainly the leading edge of that line. Pretty clear cut there. Gentry, you got some heavy rain. It's still dry at XNA, still dry at Bentonville, Lexington. But that line of storms, it's racing towards you. It was moving at about 45 miles per hour a little bit earlier. Current storm speed with these cells is going to be probably pretty similar, maybe slowing down just a bit. In fact, some of them now moving out of Oklahoma and down to about 20 miles per hour. Couple of things that come to mind when we start to see these lines of storms slow down. Number one, perhaps that is some good news when it comes to the severe weather threat. maybe it means we do have a slow decrease in that potential over the next few hours. But what it's going to also inevitably do is you rob Peter to pay Paul. We're going to lessen our severe weather threat, but our flash flood potential starts to increase with that system when it slows down. You see all this red here? Boy, that's a lot of rain falling out of that system. Flash flooding is going to be a real concern for us. Here's XNA, Bentonville, 49, Springdale. You get into Fayetteville. Dry right now. Winds are picking up outside as they are ingested into that storm system. Stephen, you just let me know when you have a look around if we're able to do that. If not, no worries. Radar is going to be a good tool for us as well.
Yep, have a few cameras frozen right now, so we're getting that fixed real quick. Our Jack League's camera there in Bentonville, we're getting reset right now.
Cool.
But I'm looking around RDOT, which for folks who are curious about, what's it looking like outside, you can always check RDOT. We use the same tool as well. And they've had this really cool feature where you can look exactly which direction you're looking now, south, northwest, whatever we're looking at. So obviously we have our own cameras, but we also check RDOT as well to see where the sky likes to light up with that lightning outside. We're still a little bit far away. A lot of those RDOT cameras are on I-49 and across I-40. So with this being across western Benton County into Washington County, you can just see the lightning out in the distance. It sure is a lightning show out there. You can see it not only on our radar right now, all those lightning strikes, but also you're probably starting to hear it outside. That wind start to pick up, and also the thunder outside as well, getting very loud outside. What was that?
Tornado warning continuing until 2:30 this morning for parts of northern Benton County. It really looks like the main area of rotation is actually now pushed into southwestern Missouri. Looks like McDonald County is where that tornado warning is going to be most concerning. Still, though, you look at all those orange polygons spanning now into northwestern Arkansas. You get back into Oklahoma, even further towards McAllister. The entire line is warned right now. Those winds come out of that system pretty strong. In fact, I can show you and give you a pretty good idea of just how strong those winds are. You can almost see the leading edge of those winds right there. All of that's going to be pushing out our direction. Now, the orientation of this line, it's a bit more slanted. You go from northwestern Arkansas well back into parts of south central Oklahoma. So northwestern Arkansas will take the brunt of the storm first. It's going to be a little bit later for those of us here in the River Valley, just given the orientation of that line. So I'm afraid there's going to be some folks that are going to be up for a little bit longer. If you got some storm anxiety, here's the thing. Stephen and I, we're committed to being here. We got more team members coming in closer to our morning show. We're going to stick with you throughout the night. We're not going to let you ride this thing out alone. We'll be here with you. We're going to track the storms. Our overall threat continues to be not only the tornado potential, a tornado watch in effect until 7 o'clock this morning. Of course, a watch issued when the parameters are coming together that could support the development of a tornado. And we do have one tornado warning for parts of Benton County. That storm that produced that rotation for Benton County actually does have a history of producing a tornado probably about an hour ago. Leach community in Oklahoma. Here's a live look near the home office. Not a lot of folks out and about this morning. That's some good news. Now, Bentonville specifically, not in the tornado warning. But perhaps from this vantage point, Stephen, if you could help me out with which direction we're looking, not seeing a lot of lightning out there flashing in the sky. I consider that good news.
Yep.
I consider that good news. When those lightning strikes start to come down, that often can be a sign that at least temporarily, at least for the time being, that storm may be starting to see a bit of a weakening trend. Is it something you take to the bank and you go back to bed and we go off air for? No, not necessarily, but it is a sign that we like to see. It certainly tells us maybe things are starting to wind down. Minimally, I think we're starting to see this transition into more of a damaging wind threat as opposed to a tornado risk. We're going to maintain enough ingredients to support tornadoes at least until 4, 5, 6 o'clock this morning. That watch set to expire at 7 o'clock. We'll see if it's needed to be extended for the Logan, Scott, and Johnson counties, which right now are not included in that actual system.
So here's a look out Springdale for our Holiday Inn camera. Again,
Okay.
These are all different directions and stuff.
Sure.
But we'll see lightning pop up every once in a while. Kind of give Scott, of course, our newest member tonight. So if those know him, he is our new chief meteorologist, Scott Covert. So we're going to take a tour around the cameras for 5 News real quick. So we got that Springdale camera out there right now. Here's a look down in Choctaw. You can see lots of clouds starting to build in. And of course, those storms further out towards the west still for those in the river valley. Our best camera that's going to give us a great look out towards the west is going to be Marshall's Museum right now. You can see it out there building. This is what's coming.
Got a barge going by.
Got a barge going by. So a lot of clouds still building. Folks in the river valley waking up this morning. What is going on across northwest Arkansas? You got some time still. We're watching that move into eastern Oklahoma. Definitely the main threat right now for northwest Arkansas, though. Again, here's a look at the Bentonville Square. Lots of lightning popping up there. So downtown Bentonville right there. You can see the lightning popping out in the background. The trees you're pointing out right there blowing around.
They are blowing around. You got a lot of wind out there with this system. And now this is ahead of the line. The line's actually not even moved into downtown Bentonville. And when that line does come in, these winds that are already strong, they're going to pick up. Now, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this camera is more oriented towards the north and east. So that lightning is actually the storm that maintains that tornado warning, at least for the next 2 minutes. No indication. Oh, it is actually going to be expired. That tornado warning expired for Benton County. So that's great news. We've kind of been talking about that downward trajectory, that the weakening of the rotation. So certainly checks out. That specific threat right now is passed into parts of Missouri. Not to say we might not see some additional. What are the cameras you got for me? Let's see what's happening out there this morning. Live radar shows that really strong line of storms. You're going to find that warning box, that red there, that tornado warning. It's going to fall off your screen probably in the next few minutes as the Weather Service out of Tulsa has allowed that to expire. Rotation has come down. And that's some good news for us, but we continue to track that potential that there could be some additional development along that line. It's not uncommon to see that.
Here's a look out to 5 News station right now, looking right up at the sky. So we'll probably see some lightning here in a little bit here in Johnson, not showing up there right now. And then Fort Smith, Mercy, quiet right now. Cars moving along. But again, across the river valley, that's where those storms are going to be moving in next. Even good news right now. Again, that tornado warning allowed to expire across northwestern Benton County. Just giving you a look around 5 Country right now with these different cameras that we have. I think the best shot that we have was Bentonville Square right now. Trees blowing around, and then also we're seeing some of that lightning there in the background where we're talking about that warned storm. Still, they're going to let that expire. That's the important part. We're now just our one warning that we have is going to be that severe thunderstorm warning that's across Benton and Washington County right now. And then I want to show you one more here. Here's a look also in Fort Smith. That one is down right now. Again, we're going to see some of these cameras popping in and out here the rest of this evening. And then Marshall's Museum, that's one is looking right over the river into Oklahoma. That's where we're going to see a majority of that lightning when it gets a little bit closer towards the river valley this evening.
Let's take a look back at live radar when you can. I know I'm giving you a workout over there, Stephen. Stephen has actually been at work for several hours. He's putting in a long day, and of course, we really appreciate him and the rest of the team for tracking these storms with us this morning. I want to take a closer look into northwest Arkansas. That's where the brunt of the action is right now. Now moving into Arkansas. A lot of winds. You see this yellow box here? That's going to be your severe thunderstorm warning. 70-mile-per-hour winds. You look at the leading edge of that line. Boy, oh boy, that's certainly a lot of wind. You're about to feel it in Bentonville. You're probably feeling it in Gravette. You've had a busy morning already. You're tired. You're ready to go back to bed. If you could you stay with us for about 5-10 more minutes? I think at that point, the threat for Gravette's probably going to start to decrease. I think you're going to see some heavy rains, possibly some flash flooding, frequent lightning and thunder. But for right now, you're starting to see those winds in Bella Vista. It's not a good morning to be out on I-49. Pea Ridge right here, you're also included in that severe thunderstorm warning. Garfield's not, War Eagle's not, Goshen, you're not yet. And yet is the key word. There have been warnings along this line since it was in parts of central Oklahoma. It's not weakened enough, in my opinion, for those warnings to drop. So I do expect we'll continue to see more downstream warnings going into the next few hours. That leading edge of the winds right now getting ready to move near X and A. In fact, I'm going to pull up, just off screen here, the wind speeds there at X and A just to see if we're unable to see that when it comes through. Looks like we had a gust of 41 miles per hour just a few minutes ago. So certainly those winds are going to kick up. 41, not technically severe. Severe starts at 60 mile per hour, but 41 is enough to get some of that loose lawn furniture blowing around. Maybe a trash can outside. If you forgot to pull it up on Friday, if Friday was your day, yeah, it may be bounced around just a bit. Rogers, you're going to see those winds here real soon. Fayetteville, you're going to see those winds pick up. West Fork, you're pretty much right on the line of that warning. Starting to hear the thunder here at Channel 5 Studios.
Here's the good news for you, Scott. Again, that warning when it was initially issued was for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. That update, when you see it blinking there, that's when they're giving us new information, down from 70 down to 60 mile an hour. So again, we're right on that severe limit right now. Good news is trending a little bit downwards right now.
Trending a little bit downwards, that's good. Still severe nonetheless. But yeah, you're exactly right. And it's part of me starting to think we might have a bit of a trend developing here. We saw that lightning come down. We saw that rotation weekend. We're starting to see the winds starting to come down. And now I want to be clear. Yeah, we're being transparent and we're talking about what the trends are that as we're seeing them. But that doesn't mean we're saying the threat's over necessarily. Maybe we're getting closer. Boy, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't it be great to go back to bed? Not the case just yet. Certainly some powerful winds about to move into Lincoln. They're probably kicking up right now. In fact, Salem Springs, the winds just moved through. Decatur and Gravette, the winds just moved through as well. Let's go a little bit further towards the south here. Boy, this is a messy looking picture, right? How about we do you a favor? How about we go over and look at the rain mode? And that's going to be a bit more familiar for a lot of folks. It's going to give us an idea of exactly where the leading edge of that storm is. Looks like we probably have some outflow happening from this system. That's another piece of evidence that maybe these storms are starting to fizzle out. That outflow, what it is there's some wind that's kind of collapsing with those thunderstorms down to the ground. It pushes out and it kicks out what's called a gust front. That said, a gust front can cause some other problems, but for right now, though, perhaps I think I'm going to add that to the list of reasons why maybe we're starting to move into a better direction. Time being, though, certainly some heavy rain getting ready to move into the Watts community. Here's Stillwell right here. Probably got a few light showers moving into the area. Winds are picking up out of the south, southeast, but soon they're going to be pushing out of the west with that storm as it moves into Washington County. Let's keep tracking down this line. We've got all the time in the world to spend with folks tonight, keeping everyone safe and informed. Here's I-40. Parts of Oklahoma. So here's Fort Smith. You look off towards the west. Certainly a powerful storm system there. A lot of rain. Notice this. We're looping this, so this is going to be over the last 15 minutes alone. Stephen, if you were to change that to the last hour, I think I'm going to see something here. I think what we're going to see is all that lightning. Look how much there was. And then now, yeah, there's still some lightning. There's some thunder. I've heard it here at the Channel 5 studios. Not finding as much lightning. That tells us these storms may, in fact, actually be weakening. I like that. I really like that trend. With that said, though, we're not at a point where we can give anyone the all clear. A couple of things going on. Number one, you've got those imminent winds moving into the area. Those winds, 60 to 70 miles per hour. That's severe. That's enough to do some damage, as much damage as maybe a lower end, weaker tornado. Two, it's still a pretty primed atmosphere. We didn't have a lot of activity here across 5COUNTRY today that would have robbed these storms of all that storm fuel and the energy up in the atmosphere. And because of that, there's still going to be plenty of not only moisture. Dew points out there are in the 60s. I'll tell you, it's muggy outside. It's really muggy. Look at those winds coming in out of the south too. So these storms have a constant supply of moisture straight out of the Gulf of Mexico. That's why it's as muggy as it was. Those winds continuing into this parts of Oklahoma out there as well. Let's go back to the watches. We'll do a bit of a reset. Maybe you're just joining us. You're in the River Valley. Good morning to you folks. Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert working alongside Meteorologist Stephen Elmore, tracking a strong line of storms moving into the area. Yellow here represents our tornado watch. It's in this area. It looks like we're having a new watch added for parts of Missouri. That's probably warranted given what we've seen over the last 20 or so minutes. It's in this area in yellow. The tornado watch runs until 7 a.m. this morning. At that point, we'll have to decide what's going to happen moving forward. You'll include Franklin, you'll include Sebastian, Crawford, Washington, Madison, Benton, Carroll counties. Adair, Sequoia, and LaFleur also under that tornado watch till 7 o'clock, right? Green, that's our flash flood watch. While I'm encouraged at this moment that some of these storms perhaps are starting to trend down, they're starting to weaken a bit, I'm afraid our threat is then going to transition into more of a flash flood concern. These storms are slowing down. You saw all that moisture, those high dew points. The moisture levels are really high, abnormally high for this time of year. In fact, if you were to squeeze out all the moisture above us, it would total up more than what's pretty normal for this time of the year around here. This is muggy air, so flash flooding is going to be our concern. That's my point there. Let's take radar back here, get an idea of where those storms are. I'm actually going to see if I can get an updated speed. So that severe thunderstorm warning for Washington and Benton now down to 30 miles an hour. About an hour ago, these storms were moving at 45, so we're down to 30. They're slowing down. Squall line continues. We've probably got the rain picking up at X and A, certainly heavy at times. You've got the leading edge of this system. Right now, no active tornado warnings. It's pretty common, though, to get some spin-ups along the leading edge of these lines. It's not happening right now, but we want to keep a close eye on that. While we're here, Stephen, in fact, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go ahead and pull this up real quick. I'm going to scope some of these out. We're going to start here in Bentonville, and what I'm looking for is if any greens are meeting up with the reds in a really tightly wound up fashion, that would be indicative of some rotation. Nothing super pronounced, no active tornado warnings. Perhaps there may be a little something worth looking into right over here. So here's Stillwell. We take another look at velocity. I'm not seeing anything that sticks out to me, but certainly maybe a bit of a kink in that line where something could develop. It's not happening yet. That's the good news for us. Here's the River Valley. Let's talk about the parts of eastern Oklahoma and the River Valley. Sallisaw, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning. Here's Greasy, here's Stillwell. Here's Stigler. Stigler's under that severe thunderstorm warning as well. The reason that warning was issued, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. You might even get a little bit of small hail, a penny, maybe some pea-sized hail coming out of it. More of that's actually probably just going to be some damaging winds, followed by some really heavy rain. Really heavy rain coming out of that system right there. Here's Sallisaw, so it's knocking on your back door. We're talking a mere matter of just a few minutes with that system. I will say just to the west of Sallisaw, looks like there's a little bit of a kink in that line. Often not too concerned with those, but just given the nature of this type of setup, this system, these squall lines, you watch for little kinks like this. That's sometimes where you can get that rotation to develop. It's pretty common. Seeing another one here just to the west of Stillwell. No rotation with those right now, but that's certainly something, just in full disclosure, full transparency, that's something Stephen and I want to watch for closely out there this morning as that system moves back in. Right now, no active severe thunderstorm warnings. You can pull me back up north if you don't mind. For the River Valley, you will likely have a severe thunderstorm warning soon. Look, I can't predict what the Weather Service is going to do, but I will tell you, especially out of Tulsa, they're some of the best meteorologists in the world. They're probably going to extend that warning out just on account for the winds. The winds coming out of this system certainly pretty strong. The rain's picking up right now in Bella Vista. It's coming in. It's coming in hard. A little bit of lightning and thunder still popping up in parts of northwestern Benton County. Had a tornado warning there earlier. I've not seen any reports of damage. If you're wondering if anything touched down, we didn't ever see any damaged debris in Benton County in the radar data. We never saw that debris lofted into the air. Given its current time here, almost 2:41, it may be some time before we would actually get those damage reports to come in. Should something have happened? Probably not, is my guess. Certainly some winds, though. And oftentimes, Weather Service has to actually go out and investigate whether or not it was straight line winds or an actual tornado. At the end of the day, damage is damage, right? It's disruptive. It's a nuisance. Causes some problems, can be life-threatening at times. So I often don't get too caught up in whether it was a tornado or actually straight-line winds. I believe there are some straight-line winds right now getting close to 49 in Rogers and Bentonville. I don't know, Stephen, if we're able to take a look into Bentonville, that square, if we could take another look at that camera.
Yep.
I'm just curious what things look like here in Bentonville. My guess are those trees are they're blowing. So here's going to be the Marshall's Museum in Fort Smith. You're looking at the Arkansas River. Here's the downtown Bentonville Square. Yep, those trees are certainly moving. The rain's not moved in just yet. It's probably going to only be a matter of minutes. These storms are slowing down, though. Now down to about 30 miles per hour. Here's going to be near the home office. Boy, oh boy, look at those winds just whipping those trees around there in that parking lot. No one out traveling this morning. That's some good news. If you're just going to have to be out and about, just know that if you're in Bentonville, it's dry at the moment. You're about to get some really blinding rainfall and a lot of winds coming with it as well. I don't know where else you can take me, Stephen, but while we're here, I definitely want to see what else is going on around 5 Country. It's pretty quiet in the River Valley at the moment, but that's going to change here over the next few minutes, certainly as things get a little bit closer to us. This is going to be in Ozark, my hometown. Here's going to be your Ozark River Bridge. It's pretty quiet looking off towards the east. We'd have to pan this camera back around to the west towards Manitou Mountain. Not going to do that for us because I don't think we've got anything to look at there just yet. Stephen, this is Springdale from the Holiday Inn.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm learning. How about that? Looking back off here towards the west, imagine if we stayed looking at this camera long enough, we'd probably see some flashes of lightning. Now, sometimes night vision, when you're looking off into the distance like this, the cameras aren't exactly the best. So we have a bit of a grainy view. There's some of those lightning strikes, a bit more constant here near the surface. Looking back into Oklahoma, west of Springdale. So we're looking pretty far off into that storm, but it is certainly getting closer and closer to the Springdale area. Here's back into downtown Bentonville. Trees still whipping out there as those winds are picking up about 40 miles per hour right now. But as that line gets closer, and it's not far, boy oh boy, it's not far, those winds could pick up to about 60 miles per hour. I think you're taking us back to radar, which is what we should do to look at to see where that line actually is. It's making some progress. It was moving quick out in Oklahoma. It's slowing down now. First, here in Benton County, rain is heavy in Bella Vista rather. It's heavy in Decatur and Siloam. Bentonville, Rogers, dry at the moment, dry along I-49. The rain shield, though, getting a little bit closer. These storms tracking off towards the north and east. Fayetteville, Farmington, West Fork, Lincoln, we're dry at the moment. Dry here in Madison County as well. But that's not going to be the case for a whole lot longer. Those storms will continue pushing into our direction. Winslow right here, not a lot going on. That's also going to change as that line moves in. Let's take a trip just a little bit further towards the south. Let's check in on things as they approach the Fort Smith area. Still pretty quiet. Radar not detecting anything out ahead of the main line. Looks like a bit of a gust front here. Tells us perhaps there's some cold air pushing out of that storm. Another sign that it may be weakening. Not as much lightning, not as much thunder as there once was. Still a severe storm. You got this large yellow box. It's a pretty large severe thunderstorm warning. Stephen, if you could, tell me when that expires. This one specifically is going to be set to expire. Stephen's going to tell us. Here it comes, 3:15 this morning. This one back off towards the south and west, probably a little bit sooner. Looks like it's about 2:45 as expected. There's going to be additional warnings, more than likely. Extended. That will likely include Fort Smith. I think it'll probably include Poteau. There's going to be a bit of a delay here the further south you go, and the reason why, that line is a bit more oriented. It's a bit slanted. It's oriented from the southwest to the northeast. So as we track this out, Sallisaw 245, pretty much now. It's rolling into your area. Rolling 313, Fort Smith, right around 326, 336 there at the airport. Ozark 408, Greenwood 355, Clarksville and Lamar a little bit after, right around 445, give or take. That's if this line is to maintain its current speed at 30 miles per hour. Could slow down a little bit more. We're seeing a slowing trend with this line. So these times, while an estimate based off of current data, may not account for the actual slowdown that we may continue to experience. Nonetheless, a strong line of storms continues to push across parts of eastern Oklahoma, soon into western Arkansas. It's going to bring a big push of wind.
Let me redraw that out for you. That was set to 40 miles per hour, so we'll get some better times here.
Excellent, excellent.
Time it for 30. If you saw there, they let that warning expire. That was
That
set to
2:45.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Good news for us. Okay, let's talk about these times here. This accounts for the slowdown that we're noticing. Muldrow 313, Fort Smith right around 340. This is a little bit slower. 410 now in Greenwood. How about Ozark at 434? Paris not too long after, around 5 o'clock this morning. Clarksville at 519. Danville at 612. Eventually pushing into the Russellville area a little after 6 o'clock this morning. As these storms slow down, they're going to dump a lot of rain. A lot of rain. Flash flood watch in effect for all of 5COUNTRY. That's going to run throughout the duration of this event. You see all these dark reds here? That's a lot of rain. Rainfall rates 1 to 2 inches per hour. As this storm system slows down, it's going to sit on top of us. And as it sits on top of us, we're going to continue to see those rainfall rates pretty much maintain themselves. So we'll start to see some flash flooding, I'm afraid, before too long. We've seen that on the backside of the system already there this morning. Stephen, if we could, let's go ahead and take this off. Let's go ahead and look at the winds again once more. Maybe we can get an idea of what's happening as these storms roll through the area. So here they are. I know this is a messy picture. I know it's really messy out there, and it's early, and you're rubbing your eyes, and you're wondering, Scott, Stephen, what's going on? A lot of wind coming out of these systems. Straight line winds, that's the concern right now. No active tornado warnings at the moment. But we've had some tornado warnings earlier. Do you see what I see?
Yeah.
I think we both see it at the same time. That's why
I was just about to say
walked
something.
off screen. Let's take a closer look. Could be something developing here. A few minutes ago, we talked about those kinks and those eddies as areas where rotation could be developing. Here's the Aikens community. This is going to be just to the northeast of Salisaw. Perhaps we might have something trying to come together just to the east of 59. That's going to be just to the east of Brushy and Salisaw. That could be some bad data. I want to see a couple of more scans come in. It's not tornado warned at the moment. If we could look, let's look at rain mode just real quickly, just to see if that kink and that eddy's still there. You know, it's really not as much as I would have expected, but perhaps there might be a little something trying to develop out there. That could just actually be interference from this cell. In fact, that's probably what we're looking at. That's probably what that is right there, if I had to guess. Still, though, even though we are seeing a weakening trend as these storms plow through, there's still enough ingredients in place that could support that potential for some tornadoes to develop along the leading edge of this line. I wouldn't expect them anywhere past the leading edge. So Vian, you got a lot of rain, heavy rain, probably some gusty winds come out of it. But I think your tornado threat with this system has started to clear on out. Our tornado threat's going to be along the leading edge of the line and potentially out ahead of it. That tornado watch in effect until 7 o'clock this morning. Here's Muldrow, just right there along 64 and 40, just to the north of it. You're about to start to see some big winds push into the area, 60 to 70 miles per hour. Looks like we're starting to see some flooding happening in Cherokee and Muskogee counties. That's a little bit off to our west. It's notable to me just because as we've seen that line slow down, we're going to start to see that, as we've discussed. Perhaps a little bit of a eddy trying to develop there. Here's Brushy. You know, maybe there's something trying there. Let's keep a close eye on it. I'm not too concerned right now, though that could change real quickly. So we're going to want to keep a close eye on that. Stephen, back to you.
Yeah, right now, we're just keeping an eye on that right now. But let's take a wide look at where the rainfall is, where it's coming into. We'll take it northwest Arkansas and the River Valley wide right now. Again, just that one severe thunderstorm warning that's across northwest Arkansas right now. Again, we talked about how that warning was initially for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts, up to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It was decreased to 60. Those are still very strong winds, still considered damaging. That's why we have that severe thunderstorm warning right now. But we're starting to see trends of maybe some weakening right now. So that's a good sign as this slanted squall line continues to move towards the east, again affecting northwest Arkansas right now. We'll go ahead and go back into northwest Arkansas and see maybe where those strongest winds are right now. I'll go ahead and loop this for the past 15 minutes. And then we'll turn on our velocity data here. So some really strong winds just moved through Bentonville. We were taking a look at the camera there and on the downtown square where we saw the trees blowing around, and now we just saw those strong wind gusts push through right over there right now. Rogers, you're up next. You're going to see some of those strong winds move through, capable of producing those wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. If we keep on tracking towards the south and pop up a few more cities here, there to Johnson. We're going to get loud here in a little bit here, Scott. Down to Fayetteville, you got some time for those strong winds get into Fayetteville, and then Greenland, Prairie Grove into Lincoln. We're following this line where you see the difference between that red and that orange color. Right along there where you see that thin line of pink is going to be where those strongest winds are, kind of coming at a slanted angle right now. So I'll loop this for you and show where those strong winds are coming in. Again, if you are planning on leaving I-49, if you're driving early this morning somewhere, especially driving south, you're going to be driving right where those winds are about to coming in. If you're heading north, the strongest winds are right over Pinnacle right now and moving past Bentonville now into Pea Ridge area. Pea Ridge, right now, you're seeing those strongest wind gusts. You know we're going to wake up this morning, Scott, is Mr. Zach Scott trying to get some sleep right now. He's there in Pea Ridge trying to get some sleep, but it's pretty windy right there. And again, coming at a slanted angle, our main concern is going to be those straight line damaging winds. I'll go ahead and pull up hail. That's something we haven't taken a lot of look at. And the reason we haven't taken a look at it is because you're not seeing any returns right now. Hail concern is definitely close to zero right now. This has really become a straight line wind threat throughout the rest of this evening. That doesn't mean that we couldn't see some activity pick up with some of those notches that we were looking at earlier. Again, that's going to happen along the leading edge of this system. It's not going to happen where we're seeing the heavy rainfall out across eastern Oklahoma right now. Where we're going to be following is right on the leading edge to see if we can see some of those notches here and there. Saw a few notches across into Sequoia County, even seeing, you see that right there, Scott.
Let's take a look at velocity on that.
Yeah, yep, that next scan really showed it dissipating really quick. So yeah, not great. Could be something there though.
Right near Bellefonte, just the west of Bellefonte, really near the Brushy community. So here's 59. You know, perhaps there's a little bit of something trying to spin up there. Nothing pronounced. We watch these things really closely. So most of Arkansas's tornadoes, really most of the tornadoes across 5COUNTRY, are actually spun up by squall lines just like this. It's not the typical discrete isolated supercells that produce those tornadoes out in parts of Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, up toward the upper Midwest. More of ours than anything else come from squall lines like this. And often what will happen is the rotation will develop really quickly. And it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. Weather Service will have to issue a warning, we'll come on air, we'll talk to you about it, and then pretty quickly the rotation weakens. They're often pretty brief in nature. They're still impactful. They're not necessarily weak, but they're brief. So you got to be on your game. You got to really watch these areas closely. You start to see those signs or those hooks or those little notches developing. It's in those areas you could see some rotation. I'm not seeing that a lot right now. Perhaps it tried to a scan or two ago. We're looping this, let's see, over the last 15 minutes. Not seeing much more than probably some damaging winds. I don't want to let my guard down on that, just in case. There is enough ingredients still at play for these thunderstorms to tap into. Do have some good news for you. I love to be the guy that delivers some good news. Can't do it too often in this job, but at the moment, the severe thunderstorm warning for Benton and Washington County has actually been allowed to expire. Those winds have come down. You've seen that warning. Here it is. It's going to fall off the map any moment now, and then we'll continue to maintain this warning here specifically. So perhaps the most concerning aspect of this storm is going to be here on the main line, the leading edge of that line, perhaps starting to bow out a little bit, and that could certainly push some winds into the river valley. I think that's probably likely. The question at this point is not if, it's just how strong they actually end up being. But this warning for Benton and Washington has been allowed to expire. Still, though, some gusty winds up to about 50 miles per hour are going to be capable of coming out of that storm system. 60 to 70 on this southern flank of the storm. And it looks like we've dropped that severe weather potential for further off towards the south there as well. It's quiet in Fort Smith. It's quiet in Alma and Waldron at the moment, but things are about to get really active really quickly out there this morning. A lot of water coming our way. Flash flooding is going to be our concern. If you look back off towards the west, where these storms have been spending more time. Flash flood warnings showing up in those green polygons. It's not our neck of the woods, but it gives you an idea of what this system is going to be capable of. And I'm afraid it's going to be capable of some flash flooding over the next few hours. We'll maintain that tornado potential until about 7 o'clock this morning. Flash flooding, though, is going to be our main concern beyond that. Here's the thing. We've got the team coming in to do the morning show. I'm going to hang around with those folks as well until this threat passes. We're not going to leave you alone tonight. We're going to ride this out with you until the threat has completely passed. Given how this is evolving, there's going to be a potential later this afternoon. If we see this rain come to an end midday, mid-morning even, if we start to see some sunshine, the atmosphere starts to destabilize again later this afternoon, even into Sunday evening, we could have some additional development, and that in of itself could be strong to severe. In fact, Stephen, while we're waiting for this warning to fall off, if you could pull up the day 2 outlook. So day 2 being from the Storm Prediction Center. It's technically day 2, but really it's just Sunday, right? And I know it's Sunday now early, but we're still technically in that day 1 outlook until 7 o'clock this morning. Is this current day 2?
They update that to enhance?
They've updated it likely since we've been on air. We just
we haven't noticed it yet.
So it's going to be, yeah. So as I'm taking a look at that data here, this is assuming that the atmosphere is able to recharge this afternoon. And I'll be honest, given how early these storms are moving through right now, I think that's a really plausible situation. That's a really plausible scenario that we may see play out. Right here across 5COUNTRY, this is going to be your level 3 risk, Stephen, or level 2? Level 2 risk. No, that's going to be your level 3 risk. This is going to be your enhanced risk here. Good majority of the area. So we're going to have to be concerned with that. I think damaging winds and hail most likely, but there is going to be about a 5 to 10% chance of tornadoes as well. Looks like the higher tornado risk may be for our southern counties here. Certainly you get closer to the Arklatex, that risk area is going to enhance. So that update coming out while we've been on air. As we're tracking this line of storms, haven't been able to get that update until just now.
So now that we're just before 3, that warning's about to expire. This is now the day 1. It comes out around 1 a.m. So now we're in the Sunday Storm Prediction Center. The day 2 is just storms off towards southern parts of Louisiana. So this is what we're going to be talking about heading into the afternoon and the evening hours, like Scott's mentioning there. We're watching these storms throughout the rest of the night tonight. Could enter into a little bit of a lull right around the midday, and then we'll watch to see some of those strong thunderstorms maybe pop back up heading into this afternoon, into the evening hours. So this is current for the rest of the day today, day 1 now that we're into early into Sunday. As we get into the afternoon and evening hours, that's when we could see maybe some of those storms start to fire back up heading into the late afternoon, early evening hours. When we were doing our shows earlier today, watching Futurecast, looked right around 4, 5, 6 o'clock. We could see some of those storms start to fire back up. And of course, that would match right when we're into that daytime heating period.
Yeah.
Starting to get those temperatures back up after the rainy morning that we had, start to re-energize that atmosphere with those higher dew point values, which is our energy that we use throughout the day. So right now, waiting game. We're going to wait to see these showers push through. Maybe still a few strong storms. Again, we are going to let that warning. They're going to let that warning expire across Benton and Washington County. Watch these come through. After they push through, though, if we see some clouds start to break out, maybe even some sunshine during the middle part of the day today, that's all it's going to do is re-energize that atmosphere for this afternoon and evening, Scott.
Yeah, no question about it. And then we'll, of course, have to turn our attention back to that severe weather potential. Right now, let's refocus in what's happening above us at this moment. 3 o'clock on the dot here on Channel 5. We're also streaming live with you this morning on our digital platforms as well. Our digital apps, some of the best out there to help you stay ahead of the storm. We're constantly pushing updates. We've got an interactive live radar feature, so if you're ever able to download that, pull it up, you can get the latest forecast as well as where the storms are on live radar. One severe thunderstorm warning remaining for this leading edge of the storm as it inches ever so much closer into the river valley. Severe threat at the moment has come down in northwestern Arkansas. I do think we're about to see 40 to 50 mile per hour winds winds, which is enough. I'll be honest, it's enough to toss some light lawn furniture around, and maybe even push the trees around out there as well. This warning in effect for 15 more minutes. 3:15 is when it's set to expire. Yet to be determined from the Weather Service whether or not they're going to issue a new warning out ahead of that line. On account for the winds, you might be getting some small hail out of the storm, but I'll tell you, it's probably more heavy rain than anything else. It's blustery out there. In fact, I'm looking over here into Bentonville. Stephen, I hate to throw you this curveball, but if you could, if we could get a look at what's happening maybe in northwestern Arkansas as those winds are starting to pick up, as the rain's moving in. Here's downtown Bentonville. It looks like the wind, it's still breezy out there. You see those trees dancing, roads wet now, rain's going to pick up. It's going to be pretty heavy at times, and then that's going to continue to be our concern. So here's near the home office, certainly looking pretty wet out there as well. If you look closely at those trees, those tree branches, they're just waving out there, right? Those winds picking up 40 to 50 miles per hour. Not severe. What is severe? 60 mile per hour. That's the threshold we've got to get to issue a warning. So we're right below that. Certainly enough to be impactful, but certainly not enough to trigger any warnings out there. Looks like traffic's moving along nice and smoothly. Let's take a look at the Marshall's camera in Fort Smith. We're probably going to start to see some lightning on that camera pretty soon. If we watch this long enough, here's your Arkansas River, of course, here's the river bridge. If you look back off towards the west here, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a little bit of lightning as those storms push a little bit closer to the area out there. The fact that we're not seeing as much right now, that's another one of those telltale signs that these storms starting to lose a bit of their steam. So our winds are coming down. Our lightning count is coming down, the amount of lightning that we see. But the winds are still pretty breezy. Brand new severe thunderstorm warning, Adair, Crawford, Sequoia, Washington County. So parts of Washington wasn't a warning. It was allowed to expire. The other part of Washington County now under this brand new warning. You can see this pulsing right here. This is your new warning box. This new warning, that's going to be for winds up to 60 miles per hour. So we're meeting that severe weather threshold until 3:45. It does include a large majority, not all of Crawford, but a large majority of Crawford. Also included in that warning is going to be northwestern Sequoia, southeastern Adair County. That storm certainly packing a punch with those winds right on this leading edge. So we were discussing this one box getting soon ready to expire. It looks like, though, we're still packing enough winds as it crosses the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. Right here is going to be your dividing line that will continue to see that severe weather threat in Washington, Crawford, Sequoia, and Adair counties as well. No rotation that I'm seeing with this system, but as we're going to continue to do until the threat's passed, we got to pay close attention to make sure we don't get some weak spin up that develops real quickly between radar scans. And really the best way to do that, of course, not only look at the winds for the rotation, but we often look for little kinks in the line. When that line gets a little kink in it, sometimes you can start to see some rotation to develop in it. Not finding that right now. At times it looks like it's trying, but hasn't actually done that just yet. That line continues pushing into the area. Here's Prairie Grove, here's Morrow, here's Cedarville, Bellefonte. You're seeing those winds pick up, those winds likely continuing for us, even into Mountainburg and Winslow. You weren't under the warning earlier. This is a different part of that main line that's going to continue moving into the area. So a new warning issued on account for that. Elsewhere in the storm, you're probably seeing up to about 50 miles per hour. So even if you're not in the warning itself, if you're out ahead of this main line of storms, there's a good chance your winds pick up to at least 40 to 50 miles per hour. And at any point, you could see them pulse up and become a little bit stronger than that. So let's keep our guard up. No active tornado warnings at the moment. That hasn't been the case this morning. We had confirmed tornado damage near the Leach community in Oklahoma. Weather Service at its Tulsa is going to have to make a trip. They're going to have to go in there. They're going to have to assess the damage. They'll eventually assign it a rating on the EF scale. No rotation with this system now. Just a straight line wind event, Stephen. We've not looked at hail a lot, mostly because I don't think these storm tops are going to be really high enough to support hail. But I do think think damaging winds, as is often the case with a squall line, those often lend themselves to more of a damaging wind threat than anything else. You just always have to pay close attention just to make sure there's not any rotation. Not seeing it yet, certainly seeing some cells get ingested into that main line as it pushes a little bit closer to Uniontown. You're going to see that rain pick up here real soon there near the state line. Stephen, are you still with us over there?
Yeah, I was just taking a look down at my phone. Sorry about that.
No, you're okay.
Sorry. So we have that severe thunderstorm warning that's a part of Washington and Crawford County. But what is a good news, again, we continue to try to bring you that good news. It doesn't show up on our radar right here, but right below it is what we call a special weather statement that's going into Fort Smith. That's for strong winds, but just below the severe limit. Again, like Scott's talking about right there, anywhere between maybe to 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts have to cross over that threshold to get to 60. So as we move south down this line where this severe thunderstorm warning is across Crawford and Washington, severe warned right now could see those gusts up to 60 miles per hour. But just towards the south of it, we're starting to see that gust out just a bit. You're starting to see that dark green line push out ahead of where that heaviest rain is. That's a good news right now where we're seeing some of those still strong winds, but not strong enough to get up to that severe limit. So something to watch right now. Again, if you've been with us for the past couple of hours, we've continued to see this trend continue to dive down, not as strong as it was across central and eastern Oklahoma. Doesn't mean as it moves into the river valley where we haven't seen much of anything today so far outside of maybe a few pop-up showers here and there, and they didn't last very long. It's an untapped atmosphere, so we could maybe see that refire back up again. But when it slows down like this, like we've been talking about, sure, we dive down on the wind threat, and definitely we haven't had a hail threat all this evening. What we're going to be focusing on now is that flash flooding event. And across most of the River Valley, Ozark just the other day had several inches of rainfall come down from one of our previous storms. Now we're moving into an area again where Ozark could have another round of some heavy downpours of rain. I'll go ahead and track this. Scott's got the winds right there. Again, we're talking about this slowing down up to around 30 miles per hour now, moving towards the east. So if this system lulls over northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, we're just going to see heavy downpours of rain. We're looking at velocity right now. Scott, you see something there that you're interested in?
Well, a little bit of a sign. It's the same one we've been kind of looking at lately. It's not as pronounced as you would expect, but there's certainly something there. Man, this is just one of those systems that you get these squall lines. It's so easy for quick rotation to develop, and you have to play whack-a-mole with the tornado warning. Not seeing it yet. I just want to be really close and ready to go. That's going to be in the Sequoyah County area. So that's what I was looking at. Right now, though, that main line continuing to pump the brakes as it gets closer. It felt like it was moving quick. And now that it's getting closer to that Oklahoma-Arkansas state line, in fact, pretty much hugging it north of 40, it's really slowing down. 45 mile per hour movement earlier this morning. Now we're down to about 30 mile per hour, pretty much just due to the east. Here's that little kink right there that I keep looking at. You start to see these kinks like that, and that's sometimes where you can get that little rotation to develop. I'm not seeing it. So to be clear, I don't think there's an imminent threat here. Perhaps even something trying to happen back off towards Sallisaw, just to the north of Sallisaw, east of Brushy. There's no actual tornado threat at the moment. Nothing's imminent. But just in the full transparency, the spirit of transparency, I'll tell you what's going on in the back of my head. I'm always looking for these little kinks here. This is kind of one of those signs. There's not many signs you can look at ahead of time in a line like this, but that's one of those storm shapes or indicators that might tell you, pay close attention to this area. So that's what I'm focusing on. That it's minimally warned for a severe thunderstorm warning for 60 to 70 mile per hour winds for parts of southern Washington, northern Crawford County. So at the minimum, we've got some strong winds coming out of that system. There could be some rotation trying to develop there. You kind of see it back here near Bellefonte as well. It's really not pronounced. You would need those colors to be much tighter and tightly wound up, closer together, and we're just not seeing that. But let's just pay close attention. Those two areas right there, it can happen real quickly. There's a reason they're called quick spin-ups, right? They really just develop within a matter of seconds. Sometimes, even as good as our radar is, sometimes it'll happen between radar scans. And so it happens before you even know it happened, before it's too late. Not going to be the case this morning. We're going to stay on top of it for you. So here's going to be the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. Here's Cedarville right here. It's quiet in Cedarville right now. Boy, it's about to be a world different. Once that system pushes in, you're going to see the rain pick up really quickly. That's it. Along the leading edge, Stephen's going to time this out at about 30 miles per hour. We'll take it out an hour. It's going to give us an idea of what time you can expect these storms to roll into your neck of the woods. So Bentonville now, we've already taken a look into the Bentonville area. Got the rain starting to fall. It's going to pick up in intensity. Winds are going to be pretty breezy as well. Fayetteville, how about 344? Poto around 4 o'clock this morning. Greenwood at 4:30. Green Forest right around 5 o'clock. Clarksville heads up 5:36. I think that's when things are going to get going for you. So you've still got some time to go before that line of rain moves in. Over the last, it's easy to lose track of time when we're doing this, Stephen. Over the last 45 minutes to an hour, we've been observing a weakening trend. There's still obviously severe weather, right? We've got the warnings, but there's a weakening trend. The winds are coming down. Storm movement is slowing down. We're not finding as much lightning. We're not finding as many areas of rotation. Boy, a couple hours ago, that one storm that prompted the tornado warning in Benton County, it was rotating like a top. It was spinning, right? Produced some damage there near the Leach community. I'm not finding that right now. Stephen's not seeing it either. What we are seeing is the flash flood threat, I think, is really going to begin to ramp up. There's a lot of water coming out of these storms, and as those storms pump the brakes, they're going to be with us longer. They're going to be dumping a lot of water on us. Initially, you might not see much flash flooding, but the longer we go, and the more rain we've got back off, look at Tulsa. Tulsa's getting a good soaker right now. You got a couple of these flash flood warnings back off towards the southwest, south of Oklahoma City, where these storms have been. It's plausible, especially in areas, Stephen pinpointed this, in the River Valley, such as Ozark, that had the flash flooding, was a couple days ago. You know, the ground in those areas probably pretty saturated still.
Right.
So I think we could see that flash flood concern pick up. Here's the general timeline. These storms, this line of it tracking off towards the east as it slows down, expect it to not move into your neck of the woods as early. It's oriented from the northeast back towards the southwest. So the reason that matters to us, the further south you are here in 5 Country, I'm talking about Scott County. And I know we have folks that watch us in Polk County. That's going to be Mena, P-O-L-K. You're going to be dealing with the rain and the storms a little bit later. That's why places like Lamar, Danville, even Clarksville, your ETAs aren't going to be near as soon as what we're dealing with here in northwestern Arkansas. Okay, let's do this, Stephen. Let's remove that. Let's start in Benton County and let's just work our way down south, up and down that line. Just taking a close look. Here's Bentonville. You've seen the rain starting to pick up in the downtown square there. We got a nice camera shot of that earlier. Rain's probably going to pick up. Right now you're seeing those greens and those yellows. That tells us some lighter returns, probably not as heavy as rain, but once those reds move in, rain's going to pick up. It's going to be pretty heavy at times, probably for a little bit as well. Don't expect this storm to clear out anytime soon. As it slows down, it's pumping the brakes. We'll definitely see those showers pick up in intensity. Here's Lincoln. Rain's now moving into town. You're probably feeling the winds. Severe winds up to about 60 miles per hour. Certainly going to be possible coming out of that storm. West Fork and Fayetteville, we're under that severe thunderstorm warning as well on account for the winds alone. Not seeing any hail coming out of this storm. But certainly some gusty winds that could produce some damage. 60 miles per hour. Look, we're tossing over some loose lawn furniture. If we got some weak limbs, some dead trees, some dead limbs, things like that, that's where we start to see some damage occurring. Up and down I-49, that's where we're going to see those winds, and they're going to be pushing off towards the west to the east. So as you're trying to drive north or south on 49, it's going to blow you around, especially on some of those overpasses where you don't have really the terrain to block any of those winds. So let's just be careful. Not that there's going to be a lot of folks traveling 49 here at 3 o'clock on a Sunday morning, but perhaps that's you. We want you to be safe out there this morning. Winds not only going to push you around, You're going to have some blinding rain as well. Okay, a little bit further towards the south we go. Here's Crawford County. We're starting to see those storms get really close. In fact, now just barely pushing into parts of northwestern Crawford County. Those winds also up to about 60 miles an hour are certainly going to produce a lot of heavy rain as well. Uniontown, rain starting to move into town. Sallisaw, boy, it's a soaker. Not as much lightning as thunder there as we saw earlier. Here's going to be I-40, that black line there, moving right into the Fort Smith area. You'll probably start to see some showers. Looks like we've got some showers developing along that gust front. We talked about that gust front earlier. I may have mentioned it just briefly. Sometimes the little gust fronts can kick up other showers, other storms. We watch that especially out ahead of those main lines. Even as that gust front moves into an area that's pretty untapped. And what we mean by when we say untapped, it means these storms, they use energy. They use, sometimes we call it storm fuel, right? Well, we have a full tank above us here in parts of the river valley, whereas off towards the west where these storms have been, they're using up that fuel to sustain themselves. So we'll need to watch along the leading edge of that gust front. That's that line blowing out of it. Perhaps it's probably just some dust, maybe some light rain, maybe some light sprinkles out ahead of it. You kind of see that starting to develop along it. Nothing severe out there with that specific aspect of the storm, but it's certainly something we pay close attention to. How about McCurtain? Boy, you got some gusty winds just below severe weather limits, so probably just 50 to 60 mile per hour coming out of that storm there. Stephen, where are you going to take us here? Looking at Fort Smith, right? Marshall's Museum. How about those low clouds building in? Storm's getting closer. So here's your Arkansas River. Had a barge come through earlier. That was pretty cool to see. Here's going to be your river bridge. Looking off towards the west, what I don't see is I don't see a lot of lightning. Another sign that we look to find the intensity of those storms starting to come down. That's good news for us out there right now. But even if you just fix your eye to just one or two of these clouds, you can see them moving in near real time. Really starting to see those clouds build in. So I think we'll probably start to see the rain, heavy rain at times, picking up for parts of the river valley over the next few minutes. Stephen, where else can you take us with this camera? So this is going to be Mercy Fort Smith. Pretty quiet here at the moment. It's not going to be for much longer. Which way are we looking here? Which way is this camera pointed?
I believe we're looking really far. I mean, those storms are way back. I think our best camera right now, you were just pointing at it, is Marshall's. That's like right on where those storms are going to be. That's where we're seeing that cloud development right now. Again, the good news is here, we're standing in front of this camera and there's no lightning going on right now. So that's another sign of it weakening right now as these move closer into the river valley. Again, I think let's take a look across way up north into the Bentonville Square. That's where the rain's coming down right now. You see the rainfall coming down, the wet roads, the trees blowing around. Those are where those strongest storms are. As we slant this line into eastern Oklahoma out of northwest Arkansas, still got some time before we move into the river valley. And the good news is less lightning, lower winds, starting to see a little bit of a trend that's weakening.
Yeah, no question about it. I want to do this. I want to stick with this storm. Stephen's taking us back right now to live radar. I want to track this through the river valley. That's really important to me. I want to make sure we do that. I can't give you the all clear yet. We've still got this warning. Once these warnings start to expire, I think we can probably at that point return to programming. We may be a few minutes away from that though. So just over communicating to the folks here in the building. Let's ride this out for just a little bit longer. And then at the soonest we can get you back to regular programming, we'll do that. Meanwhile, the team's going to stay here and we're going to keep a close eye on this just in case there are any spin-ups or any changes. Roland, we're bringing this storm into your area here in about 24 minutes. So time right now here is 3:20. We would expect that storm, the leading edge of it, here in about 14 minutes, 3:34. Fort Smith, how about 3:52? These storms are slow. They weren't earlier. Boy, they were racing. And they've really been pumping the brakes as they get closer to us. Greenwood, let's expect that right around 4:30 this morning. Boonville, 5:16, around 5:45 for Clarksville and Lamar a little bit later, closer to 6 o'clock, eventually pushing into the Russellville area around 6:45 this morning. Right now, the primary concern, it's those straight line winds, damaging straight line winds up to about 60 miles per hour. We're probably getting pretty close to that. Once those winds start to come down, and I suspect that they probably will over the next 20 to 30 minutes, maybe we'll be able to let this severe weather warning go. And at that point, we turn our attention to flash flooding. And then, unfortunately, later in the day, the potential for some redevelopment. If the atmosphere can recharge itself, if we can get some more storm fuel added back to the atmosphere above us, we could be looking at another round, probably the final round of storms, at least with this specific weather pattern we've been dealing with later this afternoon into this evening. We've, of course, got a morning show coming up later this morning, and we'll have the latest forecast for you there. In the meantime, our concern, this one severe thunderstorm warning, Washington, Crawford, Sequoia, and Adair counties included in that warning. It's technically in effect until 3:45. We'll see if that's allowed to expire early, or if we'll need to push it out a little bit further into Madison and Franklin. At this point, Stephen, if we could, let's just take a look at the winds, see if we can get an idea of what's going on with this system. Here's our Fort Smith radar. We're looking at pretty well into that system, giving us a pretty good idea of exactly what's happening. You know, yeah, there are probably some damaging winds coming out of it, but I'll tell you, in fact, don't make me guess. Let's just loop this back. You read my mind a little bit. I think those winds are starting to maybe come down. I'm not seeing as bright of a green, bright as a red as I once did. I do want to look here into western Crawford County. A bit of a notch there. It's the same one we've been tracking over the last little bit. Nothing's developed, but north of Uniontown. So this is going to be northwest of Cedarville. Perhaps there is a little something there. It's not near tight, not nearly as wound up as it should be to be too concerned with. I just don't let my guard down for these systems. So brand new severe thunderstorm warning just issued from the Weather Service. Pretty much what they've done, it's really not a new warning. Let me be clear. They've actually just dropped Adair and Sequoia County. And the reason why, the leading edge of that line has now cleared Adair and Sequoia. The prime concern now, Washington and Crawford. The severe weather threat here continues. The potential for some damaging winds continues here in Washington and Crawford counties. That's why we've got that new warning that's going to be in effect. I believe it's probably still going to be until 3:45. Looks like, yeah, that's right, 3:45. Maybe it's picking up speed a little bit, not by much. Now moving northeast at about 40 miles per hour. 60-mile-per-hour winds will be capable
I'll tell you what,
with
that new warning, there is that tornado tag possible with it. So when we're talking about those notches there, Scott, again, this is where, and appreciate meteorologist Coy Taylor just came in here and just showing me that we're gonna do a transition as we go throughout the morning into the afternoon. Whole 5 News weather team's gonna be in here today. All right, so with that tornado tag, what that means is that obviously we have no tornado warning right now, but with the severe thunderstorm warning that we're gonna push with into Washington and Crawford County, with these notches that we're seeing, could start to see some rotation somewhere along that polygon where those straight line winds are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, they issue that and we get that tag right around the same time we're starting to see that. So good news is we're all on the same page with this storm. So here's Cedarville. Should there be some rotation trying to develop, it would be just to the northwest of Cedarville. Generally, these storms tracking east-northeast, but even in that latest scan, boy, it's just not as defined as it even was a scan or two ago. Even then, it was pretty loose, right? So that's why the Weather Service not wanting to trigger that tornado warning. They're just going to go at that tornado possible tag. It's a bit of it's some extra verbiage within the severe thunderstorm warning itself. Certainly some damaging winds, though. That's minimal coming out of this storm, up to about 60. Got to watch these little kinks right here. Been talking about it all night long. Sound like a broken record, but really that's really where we get more tornadoes in Arkansas than in any other mode of severe weather. We don't get a whole lot. We do get some isolated discrete supercells, but for the most part, if you look at the collective amount of tornadoes we get, generally 30 to 35 a year in Arkansas. More often than not, they're spun by these systems, and they happen quick. And oftentimes, they're really not on the ground long, but they're certainly on the ground, and they can do some damage. So right now, I think we're in okay shape. We want to watch this closely. We're not going to let our guard down. We know it's the middle of the night. We know people have storm anxiety. You might not be wanting to go back to bed. Here's our commitment to you. We're going to be with you all night long. We've got the full team. We'll be in at some point today. Here soon, Stephen, you got to go home and you got to go to bed. You've been here a really long time, and we, of course, appreciate the work you're putting into this. I want to stick with this storm here moving through parts of Washington and Crawford counties. This is our only warning at the moment. It's warned for damaging winds up to about 60 miles per hour with that tornado possible tag. If there is any hail falling out of it, it would be around 3/4 of an inch. I think not seeing a lot of that. Perhaps there were some messy signals back off towards the west, but in the actual leading edge of the system, it's primarily just going to be damaging winds pushing out of that system. Yeah, there's probably a little bit of hail near Stillwell, Cherry Tree, Greasy, Rocky Mountain. 3/4 of an inch maximum. It's probably closer to pea-size hail if that's actually making it to the ground out there. It's a real possibility. So where we saw that area of rotation is going to be right here. You do start to see that little hook right there is trying to develop. You can see it pretty clearly on rain mode, but when you take the rain off and you look at just the winds of themselves, yeah, there's a little bit of something trying to come together there. It's not as tightly wound up. Now, if we start to see those reds and greens get much more intertwined together, perhaps our concern increases. For right now, we watch this, we watch it closely. Very weak rotation, probably just to the north of Cedarville there. Should it maintain its current path? Stephen, if you would, let's do this. Let's track that out at 40 miles an hour. That's probably going to move in the Mountainburg-Chester area. Generally, those storms are moving towards the east-northeast, so I think it would cross 49. If I had to guess, we'll see what that track shows us. Right around Chester, perhaps as far south as Mountainburg. In fact, bump it just a little bit more towards the north, if you will. Let's include Mountainburg, just a general timeline, but I think it might be moving here just a little bit more towards the north-northeast, east-northeast, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's perfect. Natural Dam right at 330, Lee Creek 333, Mountainburg 348, Artist Point 351. Should it maintain its current speed and track, which I think for the most part, give or take a few miles an hour, that has certainly been the case. Damaging winds, tornado possible though. Starting to see some areas of weak rotation. It's actually had weak rotation as far back as into Sequoyah County. It's never been tight enough, never been strong enough to actually prompt a tornado warning. Weather Service, though, indicating to us that they're watching the same thing we're watching for that potential of a spin-up tornado there. At that point, that's our only warning. What if we do a bit of an area-wide reset here? Give us a good perspective on what's happening area-wide. That's going to be the only warning. That's not to say that it's the only thing impactful around the area. This line of storms extends from now into southwestern Missouri, well back actually into Texas. The leading edge of it pushing across that Oklahoma-Arkansas state line, getting close to Fort Smith. The orientation of this line, it's a bit slanted, right? Which means, yeah, we're facing the brunt of it in northwestern Arkansas now. It's pushing into the parts of the river valley, but even southern Sebastian, even Scott County, even LaFleur, we're moving into parts of western LaFleur. We might not be dealing with the rain and the thunderstorms for a little bit longer. It may take a while for that storm to actually move into our neck of the woods. Eventually, all of this is going to track into the area, and it may be with us a while. As these storms slow down, we'll probably start to see that flash flood potential increasing just a bit as well. So that's an area-wide perspective. The main line is this area right here, but you'll see quite a bit of rain along that I-44 corridor back towards Tulsa. So we'll continue to probably see rain for a good majority of early morning, perhaps even into the mid-morning hours. We'll have to see if that rain concludes midday. If it does, and we start to see that energy return to the area, the atmosphere recharge itself, maybe we're looking at another round this afternoon of some more additional severe storms. We do have that potential of that, and so we'll have to be paying close attention. Another look at velocity, Stephen, is going to give us an idea of what those winds are doing. Paying close attention to the potential of some weak rotation. I'm just not seeing it right now. This latest scan, if it's there, it's really disorganized, it's really loose. Not enough to prompt a severe a tornado warning, rather. So I consider that good news. I've also seen enough of these lines move through over the years, right in this area, that you just can't ever write it off. You can't ever let your guard down. It's certainly possible you could get something spinning up real soon. There's some weak, really broad rotation perhaps trying to develop here northern Crawford County. How far away is that from I-49? Probably 15 to 20 miles back off towards the west there. It's racing almost due east, maybe a bit of an east-northeasterly track to that line of storms. So it will cross 49 between Mountainburg and Winslow. And that's where probably the strongest of the winds are. But even here in Washington County, Morrow, Prairie Grove, Winslow, Fayetteville, we're actually in that severe thunderstorm warning as well. On account for the winds that we're seeing. Not finding any other kinks or eddies along that line here in Washington County, so I'm not finding rotation there. But certainly a wall of wind is getting ready to push towards I-49 in Washington County, pretty much between Fayetteville and Winslow. You're going to get the wind in Springdale. You're already getting it in Benton County as well. It's just below severe weather standards at this point. Stephen, if we could, let's look at the rain mode once more here. Just want to be looking at the structure. So, yeah, I mean, you've got a couple of little kinks here. There's no question about it. Those are the areas where you want to pay close attention to. And that's really, for the most part, while we're staying on your television screens here early this evening, that's going to be our most concerning aspect right now. Here's Cedarville. Perhaps a bit of a hook trying to develop there. It's really not even a hook necessarily, more of just a kink in the line. Have you ever ran your hand through water, maybe in the bathtub, in a lake, a creek? You run your hand through the water, right? And you get those quick eddies to spin up, those little vortexes develop in the water. That's kind of what we're looking at here. The atmosphere is fluid, and that's kind of a weird thing to think about, but scientifically speaking, that is the case. And you get these lines to move through, and you might start to see those little vortexes try to develop little kinks in the line. Right now, though, you see that in terms of the structure. What we don't see is the actual rotation in the winds. So that's good news for us. It's still possible that we could see something there. Weather Service thunderstorm warned this specific area, Washington, Crawford, till 3:45. So technically we got about 12 more minutes to go before that warning is allowed to expire, or perhaps even extended a little bit further off towards the west. Damaging winds, though, really the primary, most likely, I should say, the most likely aspect that we could be seeing with this system. Certainly 60-mile-per-hour winds, which is enough to trigger that severe thunderstorm warning, probably moving through Cedarville. I think we're going to have those winds here in Mountainburg here real soon. So perhaps you got something outside, you want to put the house shoes on real quick, run out the front door and secure, bring inside. You might want to do that quickly. Starting to see a couple more lightning strikes with that storm system. Certainly not near as much as we saw earlier in the evening, earlier in the morning, when those storms were much more electric out there this morning. How about a statewide picture, area-wide picture of this, Stephen? Give us an idea of what's happening. Maybe that lightning is just now waking you up. Maybe you're starting to hear rumbles of thunder. You're tuning in here to Channel 5, or you're streaming us online on your mobile device. Here's what's happening. A line of thunderstorms that really developed way out west, caused a lot of problems, a lot of confirmed tornadoes in Oklahoma, Texas, earlier on your Saturday. They've been moving, developed into a line, moving our direction, still packing a bit of a punch. We've got one severe thunderstorm warning in Washington, Crawford counties. There is a tornado possible tag with the warning, and what that actually means, it's the Weather Service saying, look, there could be something trying to develop there. We don't want to let our guard down, but the rotation's not pronounced, it's not strong enough to actually necessitate a tornado warning. So a severe aspect to it nonetheless, no actual tornado warning with it at this time. We watch it closely. It's slowing down. This system, boy, it's crawling now at a snail's pace, around 30 to 40 miles per hour over the last hour or so. Prior to that, we saw storm movement at about 45 miles per hour. So another sign that this system slowing down And when it does that, it's going to produce a lot of rain. Tell those reds there, well, that's a lot of heavy rain just sitting right on top of some of these same areas. So if that continues much longer, I suspect what we're going to see is some additional flash flood warnings issued for parts of the area. Flash flood watch in effect, tornado watch, in effect until 7 o'clock. Stephen, if we could send things to you, it'd be probably a good idea. Let's talk about watches, where they are, when they expire. If you could also, let's touch on that severe storm outlook from the SPC, that latest update that came out that's going to be in effect for our Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're tracking this line of thunderstorms right now. Again, once we get into the afternoon and the evening hours, that's when we could see some redevelopment. We're now on day 1 from the Storm Prediction Center for that outlook. And during this live stream being on 5 News, we got that update for later on this afternoon into the evening hours, adding that level 3 enhanced risk. Again, for day 2, which was now yesterday, only had that slight risk. So they're upping that threat heading into the afternoon and for the evening hours. When we play this game of having 2 threats in the same day, what happens is we have to wait to see what the first threat does. That's how it's going to affect the second threat. So right now, we have this first threat in the very early morning hours right now. We're going to watch this line of thunderstorms continue to push off towards the east, and then we may see some clearing by the time we get closer towards lunchtime maybe. Maybe we would see some sunshine, but then once we get into the afternoon and evening hours, that's when we could see some redevelopment of those storms pumping up from the south. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that Storm Prediction Center outlook is for today now. Again, it was just that slight level 2 risk. Now you see on your screen here that level 3 enhanced risk. That includes all of eastern Oklahoma, all of northwest Arkansas, all of the River Valley, reaching as far south as Texarkana, even further into Texas and Louisiana, and as far east as our friends in Little Rock. So again, a wide area here that we could see some redevelopment of some strong to severe thunderstorms heading into this afternoon, into the evening hours. So that's this afternoon and evening later on today. Let's also talk about the current watches that we have right now. 2 of them. Flood watch and tornado watch. Tornado watch going out until 7 a.m. this morning. I'll go ahead and pull it up for you, and we'll actually get a break from radar here for a second, take off our sweeping radar. So what you see in yellow here is that tornado watch. National Weather Service out of Little Rock never did add Johnson, Logan, and Scott counties into that tornado watch. It goes out till 7 a.m. Right now, the counties included there for at least, the next 4 hours or so, if I'm doing my math right this early. Again, we're going to be talking about the tornado watch at least out till 7. They may cancel it early. We'll have to wait to see on that. But the counties included Benton, Carroll, Washington, Madison, down to Crawford, Franklin, Sebastian, LaFleur, and Sequoia counties. So again, that yellow there, that mustard yellow, that's what you see, that tornado watch. The green on either side of that is going to be our flood watch. We've picked up tons of water over the past couple of days. Our storm chances started heading into Thursday, had a few storms. Friday, we definitely had some strong storms. Saturday, we had a few pop-ups here and there, but really the big threats were Friday's system that we had, that we did have some severe thunderstorm warnings with. The atmosphere was able to recover for Sunday morning. Now, we're waiting to see if we can recover once again heading into the afternoon and to the evening hours. So again, we've still got a long day ahead of us heading into Sunday afternoon, into Sunday evening. Let's take another quick look. We'll turn off that watch here and let's go back to radar for what we're active right now with. Again, with that severe thunderstorm warning across Washington and Crawford County, that goes out for another 10 minutes or so. And we're just looking out for a few of these kinks. When we have a severe thunderstorm warning, that and speaking of that flood watch, again, they're just continuing that into the rest of the day today. That was our latest update from the National Weather Service out of Tulsa. Again, we're looking for a few kinks on and around this line. The good news is we're pretty up and down here. Right? There's not a lot of kinks that we can see, at least, that would lead us to believe, hey, that's not right. We could maybe have some rotation here and there. Right now, just seeing a straight line wind threat, which is still capable of those severe wind gusts right now, capable of gusting up to 50 to 60 miles per hour. So let's zoom in here a little bit and get some towns for you. Again, Chester area, Mountainburg area, Rudy area. There you go. They're cutting down that warning once again. where this line of strong straight line winds is coming through. So it's the same warning. That one's going to go out until 4:30 a.m. now, so they're extending this. So now we're looking at a timeline of at least another 30 minutes to an hour of these strong storms. Again, they could always cancel it early, but at least this warning is going to go out for at least the next 45 minutes to an hour. So Winslow, Chester, Mountainburg, all the way up to West Fork, Greenland, into Fayetteville. And that's where this next warning is going to pick up at. And you see how wide it is now. This is a longer severe thunderstorm warning, and it's changing directions a bit. That polygon is facing towards the southeast a bit. Now we're going back up towards the northeast. So we're tracking this west to east trend here of these strong straight line winds. We haven't shown you the hail much, because there hasn't been a hail threat. We may have had some pea-sized hail just moving across the state line from Oklahoma into Arkansas, but the hail threat is close to nothing right now. It's those straight line winds. So if you're in those areas that we just talked about, Fayetteville, you don't got much time. Strong winds moving in right about now. Greenland, West Fork, that's where those strong line winds are going to come in here in a few minutes. But folks who live in Winslow down to Mountainburg, you could throw the tennis shoes on, go grab some patio furniture, anything outside that you don't want to be blown away here in the next 30 minutes. Grab that inside and come back with the severe thunderstorm warning that's going out till 4:30 now. I want to go ahead and pull up the information on this just because it is a new warning for us with a new time. So there you see there, 4:30 in the morning, still for 60-mile-an-hour winds. And I don't believe we didn't get that tornado tag with that one, did we?
I think we did, actually.
Did we? So we're continuing on with that tornado tag, talking with our 5 News weather team here. So we're continuing with that tornado tag, watching those straight line winds to see if we see some more of those kinks. Right now, it doesn't look great to see some of that rotation. Hopefully we stay that way, but they're keeping that tag just in case we start to see some activity start to pick up, Scott.
All right, so new severe thunderstorm warning there just issued until 4:30 this morning. This is going to include a good majority of Washington County, Fayetteville included, Winslow, Prairie Grove as well. We're going to extend that warning into Crawford County, but we're going to stop it at the Crawford-Franklin County line. We're also going to stop it at the Madison County line. We'll have to see if that gets pushed over into the area. So at this point, damaging winds is going to be our primary concern. And you can kind of see those winds here on the leading edge of that system. You got to watch potential for rotation there. Weather Service including that tornado possible tag as a way of saying, look, we don't think the tornado necessarily is imminent, but it's certainly possible just given the storm structure here and the environment at play. So let's be on our guard. There is a tornado watch, and of course that means conditions are favorable for the quick development of those tornadoes. Right now, that line of rain and wind just to the west of 49 here in Washington County, a little bit further, not by much, to the west of 49 there in Crawford County. Cedarville, we got a big heavy rain. Maybe the lightning, the thunder, the heavy rain, the wind. It's waking you up. Good morning to you, the 5 News weather team. A lot of us are here this morning. I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert, Stephen Elmore here, and Coy Taylor also here tracking these storms for you this morning. We're going to be here until the threat passes. Right now, I can't give anyone the all clear. I can tell you that this warning, this newer one, is going to be allowed to expire at 4:30, if not sooner. If they can cancel it earlier, and that'd be some great news for us. But we're in no rush to go anywhere. Stephen Elmore has been here all night long. Stephen, it's time to go to bed. So get on out of here. Coy and I have this covered. Meteorologist Zach Scott will be in here later this morning. And of course, Bella Grace here going into the evening hours. This is our concern right now. Washington, Crawford County, that's where we've got the strongest of those winds up to about 60 miles per hour. When it comes to the hail, yeah, you could be getting some pea-size, maybe even a couple of isolated penny-sized stones falling out of that storm, but generally it's less than an inch, and that's the threshold needed to trigger the warning. So this warning specifically issued just for the winds, 60 miles per hour. Boy, it's breezy out there. In fact, those winds out ahead of the main line, certainly going to be out of the south-southeast. Those were pretty breezy in of itself, and that's pumping in a whole bunch of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. We're really saturated. Right above us, there's a lot of moisture in the air. You probably felt that yesterday afternoon, how muggy and humid it was. That's going to continue to be the case this morning. As we get a game plan with what's left here, Stephen, thank you so much for working a really long shift. I know your commitment to the 5COUNTRY certainly on display here this evening into the morning hours. Corey's going to keep working on the forecast. I'm looking off screen here. He's going to be going over the latest data, the latest model information. And the reason why he's doing that is I'm going to handle this morning, this current threat. We're going to ride this out together, you and I. I'm afraid, though, there could be some additional development later this afternoon into this evening. And that's what Corey's going to keep us updated on as he refines the forecast, getting ready for 5 News this morning, which, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, I think that starts at about 6, so we have a ways to go. I'm getting a thumbs up. At least I got that right for us. All right, here's the latest scan of data coming in on live radar. Rain's picking up here in Fayetteville. Rain's picking up here in West Fork. Winslow, we're dry at the moment, but rain's knocking at our back doors. Probably going to be heavy at times as that leading edge begins to move into your neck of the woods. Certainly an impactful thunderstorm there in Cedarville this morning. Cedarville, you're also included in that warning. Here's 71 right here. So pretty much, of course, runs pretty much parallel with 49. And you can see that if you live along 71, that wind's really going to be moving into your neck of the woods here over the next couple of hours, probably the next few minutes, I should say, about half hour, I guess. Storm systems are slowing down. Latest track on this takes it to the east-northeast at about 40 miles per hour. We've been between 30 and 40 miles per hour most of the morning. Now, of course, this is where the warning is issued for the moment, but it's not the only part of the area that's seeing some pretty strong storms. We take a broader perspective. Now, here's Poto. Poto, we've been dry, right? But there's going to be some rain moving in here real soon. Back off towards the west, heavy rain continues, and a good majority of the I-44 corridor from Tulsa back towards Oklahoma City dealing with some rain here this morning. That's all coming our direction. So while the severe aspect is this leading edge, you're going to have a lot more rain on the backside. I think I can hear the rain starting here at the studios in Johnson, just right between Fayetteville and Springdale. Kind of see that. Yep, here it's coming down. It's kind of loud out there. It's probably got some winds whipping with it as well. 60-mile-per-hour winds probably coming out of that. Straight line winds. Now, I know you hear straight line winds and you think, well, that's not as concerning as perhaps a tornado. And while I do understand that mentality, straight line winds can often cause just as much damage as a weaker, a lower end tornado. So we don't necessarily want to let our guards down there. Thunderstorm wind gusts measured. So this is measured with an actual anemometer, 70 miles per hour. That's going to be in Wagner County, Oklahoma. Looks like we had a 64-mile-per-hour wind gust at the Oklahoma reporting station there in Muskogee County, which is actually just about 5 miles south-southeast of Haskell. So still some winds coming out of this storm system. No question about that. Certainly has that appearance. You get these lines of storms. More often than not, they produce winds, damaging winds. It's where you start to get little kinks in the line, and we've had that earlier this morning. Some folks in Benton County had a rude awakening with a tornado warning. Their phones are going to go off, the NOAA radios are going off, the tornado sirens likely going off as well in that part of the state. That threat, of course, is past. I'm talking that was probably a couple hours ago at this point. That threat moved into parts of Missouri, but even then, you still have these ingredients at place to produce a quick spin-up tornado. It often happens pretty quickly. That's how we have to watch some of these kinks in this line for that potential for a quick spin-up. Not seeing it necessarily right now. Let's take a closer look back into it. We're going to focus where that severe thunderstorm warning is for the time being, but just know this. If you don't live on the map that I'm showing right now, I will come back to you. We are tracking the weather where you live there as well. Fayetteville, West Fork, Winslow, winds moving in right now. Not as much lightning, but there's certainly enough strikes out there that you're probably hearing some of those thunder rumbles. Uniontown, strong, heavy rain. Here's going to be Chester. Rain's moving your neck of the woods here real soon. It's going to pick up. The winds are going to pick up. It's going to be pretty blinding out there. Certainly not seeing any rotation within that line, but an impactful thunderstorm nonetheless. So let's be weather ready. If you're waking up, the weather's waking you up. Mother Nature got a bit of a rude awakening for you here early this morning. Here's what's happening. Line of thunderstorms moving through the area. A line that is packing a punch of winds, especially here in Washington and Crawford counties. That's the primary concern. Not finding a lot of hail. We can take a look at it. There at times have been some penny-sized hail falling out of these storms. Perhaps we got a little bit of hail, maybe getting ready to move into parts of Crawford County. Here's the Arkansas River, so just north of it. Not large enough to actually trigger a warning for that necessarily. It would probably be pea-sized hail at best. And that, as you can see, near Dora, Roland, it's probably some heavy rain. You might be some smaller hailstones embedded with that system there. Again, that's not in the actual warning. The warning itself is specifically for damaging winds up to about 60 miles per hour with that potential at any moment for some spin-ups to occur. Tornado possible tag added to this severe thunderstorm warning. You can see it here in orange. You got the latest update. So we got the heavy rain now in West Fork. Winds low. It's close to you. Only a few miles. It's just to the west of 49. It'll be in your neck of the woods here real soon. I think what I'd like to do at this point is to put a track on this system, and let's track it out, moving at about 40 miles per hour. So let me make sure I've got that set. And what it's going to do is give us some general estimates of times of arrival within that system. Of course, this is estimates based off of the current speed and direction. So it is subject to some change, although for right now, this is a general idea. Van Buren probably right at the top of the hour. Parts of Van Buren, you probably got the rain already moving in. Huntsville, how about 4:15? Watalula, 4:30. Berryville, 4:33. Carrollton, right around 4:51. That's when you can expect the leading edge of this system to move in. But just keep in mind, that's just the leading edge. That's where you're going to get the damaging winds, but the rain will certainly continue much longer into the morning, especially as this storm system really starts to pump the brakes. It's going to be slowing down, probably going to be with us going into the morning hours. So that's your current ETA. One severe thunderstorm warning in effect. That's going to be until 4:30 this morning, unless it's allowed to expire earlier. So we got about 40 minutes to go before the existing warning is allowed to expire. But the threat will persist. In fact, I'm going to show you just the watches alone. And what we're going to see is that tornado watch is actually set to expire at 7 o'clock this morning for the counties shaded in yellow. So that includes a good majority of the River Valley, but not everybody. So we got Crawford, we've got Sebastian, we've got Franklin. You're in that tornado watch. We've got LaFleur, Sequoia, and Adair also in that watch, and then all of northwestern Arkansas. We're trimming the watch back off towards the west. I wouldn't be surprised if over the next few moments we don't drop a few additional counties here in Oklahoma from the watch. As the threat passes, the Weather Service is able to do what they refer to as watch maintenance. They're going to go in and they're going to say, hey, the threat's passed here. You're in good shape. We can drop you from the watch. I think that threat's going to persist, especially out ahead of the line. So for Carroll, Madison, Franklin counties, even southern Sebastian and parts of Crawford, probably for the next hour or two. So perhaps we're able to allow that watch to expire a little bit earlier. We'll need to see if it has to be extended or a new watch issued for the rest of the River Valley. So Johnson and Logan and Scott, you're not in that watch right now. That's not to say you might not be added to it here a little bit later into the morning hours. Of course, that orange polygon, that's going to be our actual severe thunderstorm warning. This one set to expire at 4:30 this morning. The reason it was issued was for specifically the damaging wind aspect of that system. You could have up to 60-mile-per-hour winds coming out of that storm, in addition to the flash flooding potential that I think we're going to start to see. I wouldn't rule out a little bit of hail, but I'll tell you, not overly concerned with the hail aspect in this setup. primarily this is going to be a damaging wind threat. We'll take a closer look into that storm structure. What I'm looking for, I'm always happy to share what's going on in my head in the full spirit of transparency. I want to watch for little hooks, little eddies, little kinks in the line, whatever you want to call it. That's where we can occasionally see some spin start to happen. You get a little bit of rotation. I'm not seeing any strong concerning signals other than the wind, the straight line wind aspect right now. I'm not seeing anything actually spinning. That's some good news for us. We've not had rotation in the last probably couple of hours. The last tornado warning we had did include parts of northwestern Benton County. Right now, though, this is it. This is our only warning at the moment. I would love to tell you this is going to be the last one of the morning, and then I can give you the all clear until you get safe to go back to bed. I actually probably can give some folks a severe weather all clear. So let's do this. What I'm going to do here is draw a line. I'm using this yellow line just because it's quick and accessible to me. If you live back off towards the west, that's not an actual draw line, I'm just using it as a marker. If you live back off towards the west of this line or to the right of this line, I think the severe weather threat for you likely has come to an end. I think more than likely your concern is probably just going to actually be flash flooding, if anything, at least for this morning. We'll have to pay close attention to see if there's an additional threat develop this afternoon, which certainly could be possible. How about this? This can be a bit more clear for us. If you live off towards the west of this black dashed line, we're good. Rain's going to continue for you, and it's going to be heavy at times, and you're probably going to hear some lightning and some thunder, and maybe there's some gusty winds. But in terms of the severe weather, west of this line, we're okay. If we're east of this line, so that includes a large majority of northwestern Arkansas, a large majority of the River Valley, that threat continues for us as this line continues to move in. Now, right now, the severe weather likely confined to the leading Boeing segment of this line right here. That's where those winds are pushing east out of it. Those winds gusty at times up to about 60 miles per hour. In fact, I can take a look over here at some of the airport observation stations. They're taking a constant stream of measurements, and that gives us an idea. Just had a gust of about 35 miles per hour at Drake Field. That's going to be the airport there in Fayetteville. Sustained winds at 22 miles per hour. So sustained at 22, that's breezy out there, right? It was breezy when I came in this morning, but the difference was it was out of the south and east, and that was some fuel being added to those storms. Now we got those storm actual winds associated with the actual thunderstorms themselves. That coming in out of the west northwest, pushing some cooler air our direction. You'll see these temperatures start to drop where the rain falls, those cool winds blowing out of it. Certainly another sign that potentially our severe weather threat might be starting to wind down slowly. I think we're probably still an hour or two away from the conclusion of at least this aspect of the severe weather event. I'll tell you though, I think we're trending in a pretty decent direction. So if you're looking for some good news, here's what it is. Got one warning. It's going to run until about 4:30 this morning. Here it is right here in these two counties, Washington and Crawford. Storm motion, relatively slow, slower than what it was, right around 30 to 40 miles per hour. I'm going to loop this, and what you're going to see is over the last 3 hours, these storms were moving quick, right? Moving really quick here. And right about now, they start to slow down. They decide, hey, you know what? 5COUNTRY's a fun place to be. We're going to stay there. We don't love that because, one, it's going to keep us awake tonight, this morning. It's also going to produce a lot of rain, produce some storms. But what you might also notice, you see these little dots, these white dots. There's a whole bunch of lightning about 2 hours ago. But as we get closer to real time, here's about 3 o'clock, here's about 3:30, and now we're coming close to the 4 o'clock hour. You're not finding as much lightning strikes. It's an anecdotal way of telling whether or not these storms are strengthening or are they weakening. What's the health status of those thunderstorms? And right now, there's a few signs that suggest to us that we're probably seeing a bit of a weakening trend with this system. Certainly packed a punch earlier this morning. Tornado warning, likely had a confirmed tornado, radar confirmed tornado in the Leech community. That's going to be in Oklahoma. Saw a really strong area of rotation develop in this exact same line. It eventually moved into parts of northwestern Benton County, and thus far, we've not heard any reports of damage out of Benton County. That's some good news for us. Likely that storm quickly moved into parts of southwestern Missouri County, so we were only concerned with it for a short amount of time, but concerned enough we certainly were. Here's the loop over the last let's see, this is looping over the last 3 hours, and you don't find a lot of eastward movement once that storm system starts to cross the Oklahoma-Arkansas state line. A lot of heavy rain falling, now falling here in Fayetteville. It's falling all along I-49. In Washington County, it's starting to fill in Crawford County. In fact, that leading edge now crossing just barely east of 49. Soon that's going to move into northwestern Franklin. Soon that's going to move into Madison County. We may not be dealing with the rain in a majority of Sebastian County for a while. You notice that orientation of the line. It starts to stretch back a little bit further towards the southwest. It's not a straight vertical line, right? So that's going to be a little bit more delayed the further south you go. Waldron, we've probably got some time before we see the rain move in. Now it's breezy out there, but those are non-thunderstorm winds that you're feeling in Waldron. In Paris and Clarksville, it's warm, it's muggy, it's probably breezy as well. The storm, the action though, still off to our west, slowly trying to work its way our direction. Here at the 40-49 corridor there in Alma, you got the rain starting to pick up. Probably some heavy rain at times. We'll take a closer look into Fort Smith, spend some time here in the River Valley. Here's our radar site. Rain just to the north of the airport there. Heavy rain in parts of Fort Smith, but you could look at 540, spanning a little bit further towards the south of town. You don't have a lot going on. Now, while that may be the case at the moment, of course, you've got some more rain back off towards the west. That's slowly going to push out of Muldrow. Here's Panama, here's Pensacola. That rain eventually going to be pushing our direction into the Greenwood area. Here's Charleston right here. Here's 22 Highway, of course, going into Sebastian County. Not a lot happening in that part of the area right now. That'll change though. Alma, west side of town, you're seeing some rain. Downtown proper Alma, you probably got a couple of more minutes before that rain really builds in. It's going to be heavy. Folks, you see all that red there? That's telling us you've got some really heavy, blinding rain moving. Now, I know a lot of folks probably aren't on the roads out there at 4 o'clock in the morning, but if that's you, maybe you work the early morning shift, you just be mindful of the fact that the rain is going to be blinding in addition to the wind. So just keep that in mind. All right, we just had a 56-mile-per-hour wind gust in Lowell, so nearing 60 miles per hour. That's the reason why that severe thunderstorm warning is still in effect. It's damaging winds. That's going to be our primary concern. We still maintain that tornado possible tag along the line of this storm, and the reason why is at any moment there could be a kink in that line, similar to kind of what we're seeing here near Winslow, east of West Fork, west of Durham. You could sometimes see some weak rotation develop really quickly. Weather Service indicating as such with that tornado possible tag. Technically, it's a severe thunderstorm warning, but they do provide us that information just to give us an idea of what they're thinking. We've not seen any rotation last several scans. Doesn't hurt to go ahead and take another look at it while we're here. Latest update, not seeing a lot. So just for some context as to what we're looking at here, green, that's going to be wind blowing towards the Fort Smith radar. Red, that's going to be wind blowing away from the Fort Smith radar. You want to see a really tight couplet, or where you start to get these pixels really tightly compacted together. That's going to be an indicator that we've got rotation, and I'm just not seeing that right now. Haven't seen it in quite some time. Not to say it might not happen. That's why we're going to stay on air for you this morning until the threat passes. A lot of folks might be waking up a little bit early this morning. Mother Nature with an early morning alarm clock. I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert. Look, I wasn't scheduled to start on air until tomorrow night. Looks like Mother Nature had other plans. Meteorologist Stephen Elmore has been with us into the overnight hours. Now meteorologist Coy Taylor joining us. Coy's off air right now. He's working on the latest forecast, poring over the latest model data. And the reason we've got him focused on that this morning, you got this round of storms that's moving through for us right now, but there's a decent chance that we're going to have some additional development later this afternoon. that very well could be severe as well. And for that reason, we're going to have to maintain our guard even going into this afternoon and into this evening for that potential of another round of severe thunderstorms. We'll have more on that, of course, when 5 News this morning starts at 6 o'clock. If you're just now joining us, we'll do an area-wide reset. A lot of thunderstorms moving through the area. One area of concern remains Washington, Crawford counties. It's here where we have 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. That's what's triggered the warning for us. It's soon going to move into Madison, and it is soon going to move into northern Franklin County. Look, south of 40, I think we might have some time getting a little bit closer into southern Sebastian County, but at the moment, I think most of the action is actually going to be along and north of I-40. It's because of that slant in the line. It kind of is oriented from the northeast back off towards the southwest. So while I know things are pretty quiet here in Lafleur County, I know things are quiet in Sebastian, Scott, Logan, and Johnson, that's not going to be the case for too much longer as this storm system. Yeah, it's moving slowly, but it is actually moving. Lowell just had about a 56 mile per hour wind gust. So that's close enough to trigger those severe thunderstorm warnings. That's why this warning is issued. What we're going to do now is put a track on it, give you a newer updated time of arrival. I'm going to do the entire line back off into Lafleur County. We'll track this off towards the east. That track shakes out like this. What we'll find, Poto 408. Right now it's 405, so I don't think that's actually going to be accurate. I think it's going to be a little bit later. I probably drew that just a little bit too far to the east, but I'll tell you, Berryville, 434, Ozark, 438, Paris, right at 5 o'clock this morning, Clarksville at 510, Dover, 547, Russellville, right around 6 o'clock this morning. We know we have some folks there watching us in Russellville, Pope County. I'm a proud Arkansas Tech grad, so good morning to you folks there. In terms of where the severe threat is at the moment, it just remains in this part of the line. You can see it's a sharply defined line right in this general area from Fayetteville through Alma for the better majority of Washington and Crawford County. Weather Service right now not issuing that downstream warning for Madison or Franklin, but what they are doing is they're telling us that we could have wind gusts 50 to 55 miles per hour. I point that out to you to say this. 60 is the threshold to get that severe thunderstorm warning. So we're just below that threshold going into the next probably half hour or so. If that's a trend that we start to see, there's a good chance that warning is allowed to expire, although I've not seen that trend here just yet. I would love to do that. I'd love to send you back to regular programming. Right now, time 4:07. You're watching Channel 5 here on air. We're also broadcasting on our mobile and digital platforms as well. And our intention is to do that until the threat passes. And we still, unfortunately, have that concern, at least for the next few hours, with this line of storms. Now, here's the thing. This line actually developed really yesterday around lunch as individual supercells. We're talking Saturday, right? In parts of Texas and Oklahoma, slowly but surely it began moving its way our direction as it formed into a squall line. That's what we're dealing with now. And over the last 2 hours, I've noticed this system really begin to slow down. It was moving at about 45 miles per hour, and now we're anywhere between 30 to 40. So we're going to get a little bit of rain out of this, probably a decent amount of rain. Flash flooding is something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind. Once this severe weather warning is allowed to expire, once those winds do come down, it's my anticipation that we're going to start to see some flash flooding, especially in the areas where we have saturated soil and especially in those low-lying areas. Parts of the River Valley had some flash flooding a couple of mornings ago, and I think that's going to be something that we deal with. I think it was Thursday morning. Maybe we had that flash flooding in Ozark, right? In fact, the Ozark High School had some flooded cars. That's kind of a lower-lying, swampier area, but flash flooding nonetheless. We could add some more water on top of that. And so the slower this system moves, the more likelihood that we do see that flash flooding begin to occur. Starting to see a bit of a gust front pushing out of that system. So maybe you're in Greenwood, you're probably seeing that gust front move through. That's some winds, some colder air pushing out of that system. It's not the actual thunderstorm winds that we would be concerned with, but you see this little feature right here, this line, this green line that's pushing out ahead of the storm. Right now it's moving through Podo. You're going to feel it soon here in Heavener. Fanshawe, you've got those winds picking up. Tallahena, you've probably got those winds picking up as well. That is going to be that gust front pushing out ahead of the system. That is another sign that maybe we're seeing some cooler air take over. With that said, you got to watch these gust fronts for the potential to kick up some additional development. You kind of start to see that happening as it moved into the Fort Smith area earlier this morning. Not seeing anything along it right now as it's moving through Leflore County or even southern Sebastian County. Mansfield, you're probably going to feel that gust front here real soon. Just know that that's not the actual main line. That's a precursor to the main line that is going to be delayed by a few minutes, especially as this storm system continues to slow down. Right now, if you're just joining us, 4:10 is the current time. I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert. Coy Taylor working on the forecast over here. He's going to be geared up and ready to go for you when 5 News this morning begins at 6 o'clock. We do have one severe thunderstorm warning, Washington, Crawford counties. That system, in fact, I'm actually going to change this from a 2-hour loop to just a 30-minute loop. And I think what we're going to see here is perhaps we're not seeing as organized or as sharp of a cutoff there. That may tell us that storm's starting to show some signs of weakening, at least in Crawford County. I like the signs of that. Still a bit of a well-defined leading edge right here in eastern Washington County. We're getting really close to that Madison County line. Of course, you're up there in the Boston Mountains. It's getting close to the Pig Trail, and it looks like we do have a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. This specific warning is going to be in effect. Let's see if we can get a time for that one as it's pulsing up and flashing on your screen there. That one's going to be in effect until 5 o'clock this morning. That's likely for damaging winds as well, up to 60 miles per hour. That one includes Pushmataha County, Latimer County, and Leflore County. It's moving a little bit quicker. That southern flank of that system now moving up to about 45 miles per hour with winds coming out of it at about 60 miles per hour. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to move this box so we have a better idea of where exactly this storm is going. It's moving a little bit quicker. Albion, Tallahena, you're going to be in the path of this storm. Those winds are picking up for you right now, especially. You could even be seeing a little bit of hail out of that storm, 3/4 inch hail. You've also got a tornado possible tag with that system moving in. I'm not seeing any actual kinks in that line, any actual rotation right now. That's not to say that couldn't change though. The key here is, while we are seeing some weakening signs, we are seeing the general trajectory of these storms is starting to come down. It's still moving into an environment here across 5COUNTRY that is still primed. There's still a lot of storm fuel above us. There's still enough shear in the atmosphere that could support the potential of at least a little bit of rotation. So that doesn't necessarily concern me that the Weather Service would opt to include that tornado possible tag. So now we have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings. This one specifically in Washington and Crawford counties is going to be in effect until 4:30 this morning. So we have about, let's see, a little more than 15 minutes away for that specific storm. And then you've got an additional brand new severe thunderstorm warning that's going to be in effect for Pushmataha, Latimer, and Leflore counties until 5 o'clock this morning. That one's going to be the southern flank. That storm system moving a little bit quicker out there. I'd also like to take a closer look back at that storm as it's going to get ready to push eventually into Scott and Polk County. Now, I know there are some folks in Polk County that occasionally watch us here, so we want to take care of those folks as well. This will give you a general idea of when you could expect these storms in your neck of the woods. So this is going to be Panama right around 426. I'm going to move that back to the left side of your screen so you can be sure to see that. Panama, 426 there. Podo, how about around 4:30? Getting close to 5 o'clock in Hartford, Mansfield, 5:30. Waldron, Mena, expect that storm right around 5:33 this morning. That's going to be for damaging winds up to about 60 miles per hour. You can see the leading edge of that storm, certainly a bit more defined there. You've got some winds pushing out of it. Right now, you're going to have some blinding rain as well, in addition to just that damaging wind threat. Wouldn't be surprised if there's not a little bit of hail with that system. In fact, I'm happy to take a look at that for us. You're going to see that, nope, not really seeing a lot of hail with that one. Maybe you've got a little bit of small hail near Dora, Cedarville, Fort Smith. Probably not. That's probably just close proximity to the radar. I'm not really seeing a lot of hail. This is really a damaging wind threat, and at times this system could lend itself to the potential of some weak spin-ups. Not seeing any of that rotation right now. I keep a close eye on it. In fact, I'll scope it out again just to stay on top of it, but I'm really not seeing anything tightly wound up. That's good news for us, right? With that said, while there may not be an immediate tornado threat, damaging wind up to about 60, those straight line winds can often cause just as much damage as some of these lower end, weaker EF0s, EF1s. So let's just keep that in mind. If you get placed under one of these warnings, it's still certainly something you want to take with some degree of seriousness. We'll take a closer look into northeastern Crawford County. I'm just curious a bit more about what that system is starting to do. Not as organized near Mountainburg, nonetheless, probably some gusty winds. We'd love to hear from some of you folks. If you want to text us or Facebook us some updates, you can also find me on Facebook as well. I'm curious about what you guys are seeing in your neck of the woods. Probably got some winds coming out of Mountainburg. Looks like they may have come down. It really looks like the area of prime concern, it's going to be in this general area right here. That's probably where our strongest winds are. You can kind of see that sharply defined cutoff right there. Those are some winds up to about 60 miles per hour. We're talking eastern Washington County. Here's Durham. Here's going to be Huntsville. I think most of those winds, the strongest of which right now are on track to push just off to your southeast. But if you live along 23, they're probably going to be moving into your neck of the woods here real shortly. It's certainly possible Huntsville gets placed under a warning. Right now, it's a special weather statement, which is just a step below warning, a warning. And that's going to include Crawford, Franklin, Madison, and Washington counties. It's there where we could be seeing wind gusts 50 to 55 miles per hour. Some of the towns that are included, and that, of course, is going to be Winslow. It's going to be Alma, Ozark, Mulberry, Elkins, also within that system as well. That's it. That's the strongest aspect of this storm right now. I think it's going to be pushing into parts of Madison County here real soon. Huntsville here. Here's going to be the Venus community. Here's going to be Boston. Probably going to be dealing with some wind minimally. Let's keep an eye on this. I'm starting to see that shape try to come together right there. Nothing too concerning at the moment, but perhaps it's a sign that maybe it wants to try to do something. We'll take a look at the winds. I'm not really seeing rotation in that same area. I do see strong winds though, 60 miles per hour coming out of that. Here's Mountainburg. Mountainburg, you probably got some winds, you got some rain right now. So Cass is going to be in here. Here's going to be Watalula. You're in the Ozarks. You're in the Boston Mountains for sure. Those winds certainly could be a little bit higher coming out of that storm. So let's just keep that in mind if we live in that part of the area. Old stomping grounds for sure. Baptist Vista Church Camp right up here. Spent a lot of summers there up on 23 in the Ozarks. Really beautiful part of the state. Mulberry, you're starting to see some rain moving in. Alma, the rain's starting to come down. Fort Smith, how about us? Finally starting to see that heavy rain. It's been slow. This system's really slowing down for us. That's one of the main concerns that I've got is flash flooding. You got heavy rain and it's just pumping the brakes. It's going to park itself. It's going to be with us most of the mid-morning hours, and that's going to lend itself to a flash flood concern. In fact, not only do we have the tornado watch that's actually in effect until 7 o'clock. That's some old text I had on there from a couple of days ago. But you've also got a flash flood watch in effect as well for most of the area. So if you're just now joining us right now, time 4:18, we've got 2 active warnings in effect. They're both severe thunderstorm warnings. This one specifically in Washington and Crawford counties, that's set to expire at 4:30. Current time 4:19. So we got a little bit to go for that one. This one now moving into parts of Lafleur County. That's the newest. It's actually set to expire. Let me make sure I'm right. I believe it's 5 o'clock. I think that warning, yep, there it is, 5 o'clock. That is going to be primarily for damaging winds as well. It does have that tornado possible tag, which is kind of a new feature that the Weather Service has started doing over the last year or so. And that's not a tornado warning, but what it is saying is, look, you know, there could be a tough to detect tornado develop at any time, maybe even between radar scans. And so we got to watch these kinks in the area. That's often where you can get some of that rotation to develop. Little eddies. Have you ever, ran your hand through a bathtub of water, or maybe in the local creek or the river, the lake, the pool, right? And you get those little vortices, those vortexes to develop. It's a very similar concept. Think of this line of storms as your hand moving through the water. There's a lot of ingredients in place that can support that rotation should something just kick it up. Tornado threat overly not impressive, but there's enough ingredients in place that I do think we're going to want to be at least weather aware with this system as it moves through the morning hours. This is round one for today. Unfortunately, the early morning nature of how quick it's moving through, or how early in the day, I should say, we may see the atmosphere recover, or another way of saying that is recharge or destabilize later this afternoon, and we'll have a potential for some additional severe weather later this afternoon into this evening. So do want to give you an update. You've got this severe thunderstorm warning here for Washington, Crawford counties. You're going to see this fall off my map here real soon. Weather Service has gone ahead and said, you know what, that was set to expire at 4:30, but the storms that prompted this warning in Washington, Crawford, they're not as severe as they once were. So as we move into Madison and Franklin counties, you don't have the severe winds at 60 miles per hour, but you do have some pretty strong winds, perhaps 50 to 55 miles per hour. So we're not too far below severe limits, but below severe limits we are nonetheless. You're also just going to get a whole bunch of gusty wind in addition to the rain, so it's going to be a bit of a downpour out there for us. Live radar scanning, this warning is going to fall off. This one for southern Lafleur County will continue until 5 o'clock this morning. Here's what my plan is. My plan is to track these storms with you through the river valley, or at least until the threat passes. If we can get rid of all those warnings, I'll send you back to regular programming. The team here will continue forecasting, tracking live radar, and providing updates as needed. Folks up in the booth, here's what I'm going to do. I don't want to throw you for a loop here, so I want to over-communicate for the moment. I'd like to keep it full here on the wall. I'm going to off-screen walk over to the Weather Center, take a look at something. If you'll just keep it here, I'm going to keep talking over that. We'll keep it right there just for the time being. Really happy and thankful for the folks here behind the scenes working long hours overnight, in addition to meteorologist Coy Taylor here also working with us to make sure we can give you the most accurate and up-to-date forecast that we possibly can. We're here on air on Channel 5 through the morning hours. 5 News this morning starts at 6 o'clock. We'll have the latest news happening overnight, as well as the latest forecast as well. In the meantime, our attention focused on a couple of severe thunderstorms right now that are primarily just producing some damaging winds. Those winds up to about 60 miles per hour, getting ready to move into southern Lafleur County. Right now in Tallahena, that leading edge of the storm moving through your area right now. That specific storm itself is actually moving at 45 miles per hour. So with that information, what I'm going to do for us is we're going to put a track on that specific storm in of itself. So we're going to get some better detail as to when you can expect that storm if you're out ahead of it. Using that information, we'll put this track on it. Generally, these storms are moving off towards the east-northeast at about 40 miles an hour. So this is going to tell us that Talihina, it's pretty much there right now, right? Octavia, how about 449? Smithville, right at 5 o'clock, maybe a couple of minutes before. Black Fork, maybe a few minutes after. Potter, 517. Mena, 524. Waldron, how about 535? Expect those winds to pick up. If it maintains its current strength, you could experience winds up to about 60 miles per hour. So certainly damaging winds. You're going to have a whole bunch of rain at the same time, blinding rain, sheets of rain just whipping across the sky, right? And so that's some of the impacts that you can expect. Not finding a whole lot of lightning and thunder out there, certainly not near as much as we were earlier this morning. Just another sign that these storms starting to slowly weaken, but boy, it's been a slow weakening trend over the last couple of hours. This warning still showing up on the map, but I'll tell you the Weather Service did allow that to expire. It'll fall off in the next few moments, if not minutes, here soon. That storm, though, now moving into Madison County, northern Franklin County, 50-mile-per-hour winds. I wouldn't be surprised if we're not seeing that out of that storm. We'll take another look at the winds, not seeing anything concerning. Here's the leading edge. It's moved out of the actual warning itself. Now, if you're in this warning, Crawford and Washington, yeah, you're still going to have some wind gusts, 40 to 50, but that's sub-severe. You're going to have a lot of heavy rain as well. A little bit of lightning and thunder. I'm hearing the rumbles here in the studio. Sometimes it can be hard to hear, but they're so loud that we're still able to hear it. Despite the insulation in this building. Here's going to be Fort Smith. You got some winds whipping out there as well. They're not severe at the moment, so Fort Smith not included in any actual severe thunderstorm warning. The primary concern is going to be the southern flank here. We'll take a look at velocity data. And what this is radar deciding to detect just the wind speeds and the wind direction. You look in this, it's a bit messy to the south of Talihina. That'll soon move into southern LaFleur. You know, maybe you got something trying to work its way around the area. You see some messy interaction there. Nothing too concerning when it comes to rotation. I think more often than not, what I'm seeing right there is probably just some really strong straight line winds coming out of that system. You see a couple of new scans, new pieces of data coming in. And yeah, I would certainly suggest that there's probably some damaging winds coming out of that storm. 60 miles per hour is going to be possible for that. I think I can probably actually do some queries here and be able to tell you for sure what we're seeing within some of those pixels. Yeah, velocity measuring about 51 miles per hour. That's up in the radar level, right? And so we're not looking at the ground level where you and I are. So those winds could be mixing down and certainly be reaching about 60 miles per hour, which is certainly enough to trigger that severe thunderstorm warning. That's probably why that has been issued for us, putting those warnings back on the map. Rain, it's going to be heavy, especially going there into the Talihina area. You see those dark reds there. Rainfall rates this morning, 1 to 3 inches an hour. You start adding that up, that's a lot of rain over a short amount of time. So not only do you have the rain in the most leading edge of the storm, but look what's going to be following it on the backside of that system. A lot more rain. Here's I-40, right? Here's McAllister, here's Tulsa. That 44-40 corridor, you got some constant steady rainfall. That's going to be moving into Tahlequah here over the next probably half hour or so. You got some good moderate rain now, but it's really going to pick up in intensity once that next batch starts to move in. You're looking a little bit higher into the storm that far out, but certainly nonetheless some rain for sure. That storm right now that's severe warned in LaFleur County looks to miss Poteau. That's not to say the winds aren't going to pick up. The leading edge right here just to the west, probably only by a few miles. I can measure that and give you a more precise measurement. Just to the west of Poteau, you're about 10 miles before the main leading edge of that system moves into Poteau. Rain's going to pick up, winds are going to get gusty, things are going to get pretty active here pretty quick. So just keep that in mind if you're in Poteau or southern LaFleur County out there this morning. That warning set to expire at 5 o'clock. This warning, it's not fallen off the map yet, but Weather Service has told us off air that it has in fact expired. They expired that a few moments ago. So let's ride that out for the next couple of minutes just on pure technicality. And then we'll start to see things improve for us here. So maybe you're just waking up. Mother Nature got a bit of an early morning alarm clock for you. Full team weather coverage here. We've had meteorologist Stephen Elmore working overnight. Meteorologist Coy Taylor now joining us. He's forecasting. It's going to be an active Sunday. There's more severe storms in the forecast later this evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert. The fact is, my plan was to start work here at Channel 5 on Monday. Looks like Mother Nature had other plans. So I'm happy to be with you overnight, hoping we can give you some context and some confidence that you're going to be safe throughout these storms. Our goal here is to provide you the information that you need to make good decisions for you and your family. Right now, my main concern is actually going to be this southernmost cell that is severe thunderstorm warned for winds 50 to 60 miles per hour. This warning will fall off here shortly. And once it does, we'll start to see things improve for us. So folks up in the booth, here's what I think we're going to do. It's 4:30 right now. We are going to resume regular programming in minutes. Let me know, if you will, in my ear when we're ready to do that. Okay. Got it. Excellent. Thank you, folks up in the booth doing some good work for us here this morning as well. Myself and Coy, we're going to continue tracking these storms, but for the time being, we'll return back to regular programming. Here's my promise to you. Should something pulse up, should something re-engage, re-emerge as severe, we will not hesitate to break back into programming and of course here on our digital platforms as well. On behalf of the 5 News weather team, I'm Chief Meteorologist Scott Covert, returning this back to regular programming.